The man walks along the fence and curses, banging his fist on the wall. Why can't he do it? He says that even though he has F rank, it was only one insignificant monster. The blonde raises his head and says that it is someone's fault. He is angry at someone. Elsewhere, a dark-haired boy turns around, thinking that at least someone has left. Behind him, a girl in armor calls him Nain and asks if something has happened. Nain replies that nothing has happened. He just draws his sword lightly. All the monsters behind him are simply destroyed in a split second. Nain says that he is just attacking. A few months ago in the city of Bible, Nain was sitting in a hostel when a man came in and rudely said that a certain gentleman was calling him. At that time, Nain was sitting in washing clothes in a basin. He asked if it was really Mr. Alice calling him. He gets up, sighs, and says that he was so hoping to sleep. He is 15 years old. It has been 2 months since he became an adventurer. His magic power level is 1, but it is close to 0. The lowest rank of adventurers is F. He thinks his nickname is useless. He has a lot of responsibilities: laundry, cleaning, checking equipment, purchasing, plus he is a vanguard fighter. So, such a useless one, in his own opinion, was picked up by the leader of their team, Mr. Alice, and so he became an adventurer. He gets up, leaving the laundry, and says that he is interested in what this business is. He turns to a certain Inu. The cat on the windowsill meows sweetly to him and then jumps on his shoulder. Nain guesses that she answered that it was nothing important. He says that there is no need to say that. He understood what Inu was saying. It had been like this for as long as he could remember. Nain considered the cat his own little sister, and Inu considered him his little brother. He approaches the master's door and assumes he is drinking. He sighs, holding his hand to his heart, and tries to calm himself. He knocks and apologizes. He sees Alice sitting with a glass in his hand and asks if they saw him fight. Beautiful girls are sitting next to Alice. He looks arrogantly at Nain and says that these trolls are no obstacle to him, and fighting in the dungeon of this city is too easy for him. One girl at his feet says that this is to be expected from Lord Alice. Another adds that his magical attack was excellent. The girls say that he has stolen their hearts again. They also want to learn from them. Nain sees many empty bottles on the floor. He thinks with disappointment that he has spent everything on these drinks, so he will not be able to buy bread for himself again. Alice asks if it is really a useless person who has come to them. He points to a place and tells him to sit there. Nain comes up to him, kneels down, and lowers his gaze. Alice likes this view. He says with a sly smile that his sword is a black katana. He sold it, but did not get much money. He says sarcastically that it is a shame. Nain freezes in shock from this. Alice takes a sip of the drink and asks if he has gone deaf. He said that he didn't really get anything for his sword. He adds that he now drinks some cheap drink, and his father hasn't given him money lately. Nain doesn't understand anything. Did he really sell the sword, his weapon, without even asking him? Mashepen mantogamuz hotul so suddenly. He thinks that just today he killed a monster with this very sword, and all for the good of the team. Nain asks, offended, Jaili Fabird, why he did that, because if he doesn't have a sword, how will he fight? Alice tells him to close up. He said it was annoying, or is he really that deaf? Nain wants to object and tries to explain Traxac to himself. He thinks that up until this moment, he only endured and tried not to even think about it. He joined this team because, while useless in magic, he could become an adventurer even if he was treated like a servant. He did all this to fulfill the will of his late father. He had to become an adventurer, so no matter how hard it was, he endured everything. In the current era of the flourishing of magic, in order to become an adventurer, a useless person like him had no choice but to endure and hold on. He holds a piece of paper with information about the sale of his weapons. He desperately looks up and sees how Alice and the girls are smiling. He thinks that when they picked him up, he was so happy. He thought that he would thank them with the sword art he inherited from his father. Nain shouts to them that this sword is all that remains of his father, and besides, without a weapon he will not be able to fight, he will not be of any use. Alice sits back in his chair and tells him to stop dumping his problems on others. He asks if this is how a useless person should speak. He is indignant why he did not answer him the way he wanted, why he did not thank him for selling his sword and getting money for the team. Nain does not understand why he also blames him. Alice says that he almost kicked the bucket today. If Alice hadn't killed those trolls, Nain would have died. Then he remembers a certain Scarlet Daria and starts getting angry. Scarlet Daria is an S-class adventurer, a member of the Scarlet Falcons team and the strongest attack mage on the continent. Nain heard that she is a princess, and he thinks that she and he, with his F rank, are simply heaven and earth. Alice tells Nain that he also disgraced himself in front of an S-class adventurer. She even gave him a potion. Does nothing bother him? Nain is nervous and thinks that the master was extremely impatient. Being in the rear guard, for some reason he rushed into battle. He was about to be killed by a monster, but he was in the vanguard and covered him. He took the blow on himself and flew to the wall. Then Scarlet Daria approached him and asked with concern if he was okay. She then abruptly thrusts the potion into his mouth. He swallows it in bewilderment, and then, when she pulls the potion out, he thanks her with recognition. Scarlet Daria then smiled at him sincerely. Alice gets angry. Nain wonders if he wanted to show off in front of an S-class adventurer, or if he thinks it's stupid. Alice says that he wanted to kick him out of the team right away, but he is kind. If he apologizes from the bottom of his heart and fasts for 3 days, then he will forgive him. Alice puts the glass with the drink on the table and tells Nain to go down with disdain. Nain sits and does not understand. Everything is swimming before his eyes. He does not understand his own feelings, but he knew that it would be like this. He thinks that people are so made that when they are driven into a corner, they give up without thinking about anything. They think that it is useless to talk to him because he will not understand anything. He decides that he just needs to do the same. He bows to him and starts talking about his sword. Suddenly, Inu's paw touches his leg. She meows demandingly. Nain looks up and sees her. Alice slams his fist down menacingly and tells Nain that he is a busy man, so he should do it quickly before he changes his mind. Alice looks at them haughtily and sees that Inu stands steadfastly in front of Nain and looks at Alice with confidence. In the cat's eyes, Alice saw contempt. Alice himself begins to get nervous and worried that sweat is pouring off him. Alice came from a neighboring country, a member of one of the local noble families. There were their own customs and traditions. Example: a thrown glove was a challenge to a duel, and all that was left was to accept it. Also, boys of noble birth could not spend time alone. They always had to be surrounded by women. And when a black cat crosses his path, it's bad luck, so if it's in front of him, he definitely has to kick it. And he followed that. Alice stood up and kicked Inu until he drew blood, screaming how disgusting this was to him. Inu falls unconscious. Nain stands up and reaches for the shaking Inu. He lifts her up and asks if she is okay. He screams what he has done. Alice replies easily that it is just a cat. Nain replies that it is not. Alice says that he is a nobleman. Can't he allow himself to kick that cat? Nain looks at him in horror and moves in a second. He punches Alice hard in the face so that he falls in shock and doesn't have time to react to anything. At this time, Nain thinks that he has white hair. It doesn't matter to him how noble his blood is. He must know one thing. Whoever offends Inu will get it in full. He gives him a second blow and prepares to give him a third, but then he hears a plaintive and drawn-out meow. He stops abruptly. He lets go of Alice and shouts to Inu. She meows Geika Hazankor the pars. He understands that she wants him to stop because he already got his. Alice lies unconscious. Nain stands and wonders if he really lost consciousness with one blow. Then the girl throws herself at him with a sword and shouts that he is bad. He manages to dodge the blow. He thinks that he lost his cool so he wouldn't have time to dodge. Inu said that he could have died. Another girl runs to Lord Alice. She immediately heals him and sighs. Everyone looks at the process in surprise. Nain lost his balance and fell back. He remembers Ina and asks her if he is okay, if nothing hurts. She meows to him. Nain replies that it wasn't him who was kicked so hard, although didn't she start it? He hugs the cat and says that this is stupid. Cats don't do that. He says lovingly that in any case, she is now safe. Alice sighs, the girls call him. Then Nain tells Inu that he has decided everything. She meows questioningly. Nain approaches him in complete silence and thinks that it is a pity that this happened to Inu, and he cannot allow something like this to happen again. He calls them, they all turn to him. Nain sighs, then looks at them confidently, after which he shouts that this is the end, he is leaving. Inu meows happily. The three look at him in surprise. Alice asks where he is. Isn't he a member of their group? He takes Ina with him and turns away from them. They immediately stand up and begin to dissuade him in panic. Alice tells him that he is in the group for a reason. Nain looks at him tiredly. He addresses him as his honor and replies that, of course, it is not for nothing. Alice says that he understands everything. It is high time to apologize already. Nain angrily shouts at him that he kicked Inu. Doesn't he know how dear she is to him? Alice tries to explain to him that this black cat is related to the rules and traditions in his country. Alice says that the past cannot be changed, so let him not make a villain out of him. He points to his blue cheek and shouts that he did it. Nain clenches his fist and thinks that in all this time he still has not heard an apology to Inu. He passes by Alice and says that he is leaving the group and that he has been indebted to them up until this point. Alice sighs. He turns around abruptly and starts shouting at Nain that he will regret this. He will go to the head of the Adventurers Guild, tell them that he betrayed them, so that tomorrow everyone will find out about it. Nain doesn't understand why he's so panicked, as if his complaints will change anything. It's starting to dawn on him that they don't have any servants. That's why he's so upset. He's the only one who washes their clothes. What else do the servants do? Nain tells them that from tomorrow on they will do the laundry themselves. Today he will be in the laundry room. He tells them to manage on their own. From now on, Alice asks him to wait. Nain asks what else. He tells him to go wherever he wants, but on one condition. He says that he must leave all his things, and after that he can get lost, since he does not like the group. Nain immediately puts everything on the table, the backpack, potions, and other things, and says that he will put them here. Alice clicks his tongue and starts to boil with anger, and shouts that he should leave the armor too. Nain immediately takes off his armor and gradually places it on the table, without taking his eyes off Alice. Nain thinks that among these things there are none that would be dear to him. He bought bread for himself every day with his own money, so he did not have enough even for a new weapon. He was told that for a nobody like him it was a waste, so he only received pennies. He takes off all the things and says that this is all. He opens the door and tells them to take care of themselves. Alice is left in a panic and complete silence, not knowing what to do. He still shouts after him to make sure he will regret this. Nain confidently walks away from them, clenching his fists. He searches among his things and realizes that it is not there. The blade is gone, so Alice really did sell it. He shakes everything out of his backpack. The cat meows at him and tells him that they don't have to follow the rules. Nain replies that everything is fine. He says that the only question is what he feels. The cat meows again and jumps on his shoulder again. Then he gets scared and sees that the cat is holding something in its mouth. He sees the coin and is surprised. This can't be. The cat stands proudly and looks at him. Nain thinks that this will be enough for them for a whole year. Nain asks the cat why. She answers. Nain doubtfully repeats that it was picked up. The cat offers a way out. Nain asks if this is only to buy back his father's sword. He asks if even that is too much. The cat is already meowing pitifully. Nain thinks that until now he has worked just for the thank you, so he is not sure if this will be enough for them. He looks tensely at the coin. He says humbly that there is no choice. He clenches his fist with the coin and thanks Ina for her help. They leave. Nain says that it is good to have a little sister who takes care of him. Inu purrs, rubs her head against his cheek. Nain smiles and thinks that they will always be together. He hugs her tighter and thanks her. He stands in front of the doors and asks to think. Perhaps he can set up camp under the post, so as not to waste time. They will take on some task. For example, get rid of mice. She meows, saying that she hates mice. Nain asks if cats behave like that, and she meows back and says that she is a very noble cat. Nain begins to realize that he has left the group, so now he is a lone adventurer. No one will work with a nobody who can't use magic. He encourages himself and says that adventurers do not give up. In order to fulfill his father's will, he must become a dragon slayer and return the sword. He thinks that it is time to follow his dream. Nain opens the gates in front of him. He only needs to take one step. He turns away from the doors and sees Scarlet Daria in front of him, looking at him, her hands folded in front of her. Nain wonders if this is the princess from the dungeon. What is the strongest magician of the continent doing here? Scarlet Daria smiles at him and asks him if he is already going home, calling him a boy. Scarlet Daria is an S-class adventurer and the strongest attack mage on the continent. Nain doesn't understand what she's doing here. Scarlet Daria extends her hand to him and says, "What a surprise! Is he really already getting ready to go home?" Anu on Nain's shoulder begins to hiss. There are dozens of dungeons and other dangerous areas scattered throughout the continent. These places are inhabited by monsters that pose a danger to human life. Those who fight them and free the territories from their influence are called adventurers. In order to resist the powerful monsters, a guild was created. She constantly received requests for help. Requests came from both the common people and the aristocracy. In order to successfully complete tasks, the guild has established a certain standard of strength, a ranking system for adventurers from all over the world. The SS rank is empty because this rank has not been awarded to anyone for over a century. The ES rank is where the Scarlet Falcons group is located, which includes the strongest Daria. Alice and others like him belong to the B rank, and Nain is at the F rank. And in the company of Daria, an adventurer of the ES rank, Nina was in for an unexpected adventure in a dangerous dungeon. This is the Dungeon of the Beebles, the lowest class. The adventurers of the S-rank Scarlet Falcons went into the dungeon to test their strength. The enemy chosen was an evil troll, who is the master of this dungeon. For uninvited guests in the dungeon, such encounters are common. Alice thought about what to do. If they assessed the situation sensibly, they would hardly get this rare magic stone. After their death, monsters leave behind a highly valuable item, a magic stone. In front of the troll stands Nain. The monster attacks. Nain stands calmly and does not dodge. He reflects the blow with his sword. His weapon is black. When the robe turns black, the armor, hair, and sword also turn dark. Scarlet Daria looks and thinks that this boy is like a shadow. Nain simply swings his sword, causing the troll's huge club to break into pieces and fall. The monster screams in rage. Scarlet Daria stands and is surprised by everything. Nain swings his sword, not going far. Scarlet Daria stands and says that he skillfully wields a sword. For her, it is incredible, as if he does not use magic at all. During melee battles, battle mages use magic contained in their weapons. When Daria uses her sword, her blows become more powerful with each swing. The current generation prefers to call such things magic weapons. Scarlet Daria thinks that Nain's energy flow is impossible to notice. She asks Linda next to her if she saw anything. Linda replies that she didn't notice anything at all. Linda asks Daria in horror if he is really faster than her. She replies that he probably is. She wonders what kind of guy he is. Linda says that the troll's club emitted powerful magic. You have to be very fast to parry its blows. In addition, the club is clearly harder than the troll's skin. She says that achieving such a result requires years of training, and even experienced adventurers can sometimes be unable to cope with such attacks. Scarlet Daria thinks that, however, the boy managed to do it easily. She wonders how it happened. She thinks that it looks like he is able to defeat the evil troll single-handedly. Besides, the faster he moves, the higher the accuracy and power of magic. What is his true potential then? The third man asks if he is the only one taking part in the battle. Scarlet Daria replies in surprise that it is now clear. His specialty is strategy and agile movements. Being in certain positions in the vanguard, he helps the group members to quickly orient themselves on the battlefield. At this time, the monster attacks Nain and misses. Daria says that by leaving the right flank, he drove the monster into a trap. But it was possible to do without this, in her opinion. Having opened up the best position for an attack to another team member, the guy says that if he manages to get away, then the rear guard, which is on a hill, will be able to carry out a one-sided attack. Linda says that the tightness of the cave also plays into his hands. If the troll even takes a breath, it's the end. Daria says that, however, not everything always goes so smoothly. Some attacks appear behind the monster. The monster dodges, the attacks fly after Nain. Alice stands tired. They shout at him. The three of them are thinking with their heads. Daria clenches her fist and thinks that if it were her in their place, she would never have missed. She takes it and hits Alice in the face with her fist. However, bypassing the enemy from the front and from behind, this boy, that is, Nain, moving like a shadow, plays with the prey like a cat. He jumps and moves quickly, not giving the monster time to think about his actions. When this moment came, Daria often thought about it, and each time she became more and more convinced of her guesses. Nain strips the monster of its weapon. Daria stands holding her breath. At that moment, she notices the look of the black cat. She thinks, is this really fate? She thinks about how he has captured her heart. She calls him the Black Cat Swordsman, and wonders who he really is. Daria thinks that Nain has cut the club again, and that even she, an ES rank adventurer, cannot see his magic. She does not understand how he does it. She thinks nervously and at the same time proudly that this exceeds all her expectations. She wonders who he is. She sees that Alice is shouting at Nain from behind, calling him a good-for-nothing. What is he doing? He freezes in surprise. Alice shouts at him to stop waving his sharpened blade around. For no reason, he orders him to knock the troll down and he will finish him off. Daria hears all this and is very surprised. Daria thinks that this fool is the weakest of the group, but he behaves as if he knows and can do everything better than everyone else. He irritated her before, but now this is going beyond all bounds. Daria is still thinking about the fact that he has been looking at her suspiciously lately. She wonders if it is really so rare that he sees an ES rank in front of him. Daria yells at him to stop staring and focus on the fight, because the guy gave him a great chance to strike. They yell at him not to stand there like a pillar. Scarlet Daria slowly takes out her sword and says that they probably need help. Linda says no. Daria immediately agrees. Alice begins to approach the monster. Scarlet Daria again shouts at him, calling him a fool. What is he doing? Here the monster attacks Alice. He does not dodge. Instead of him, Nain stands under the blow and holds on with his sword. However, the monster hits hard, sending Nain flying backwards. Scarlet Daria sees everything and is horrified by what happened. Daria immediately runs to him. Linda is surprised by her actions. Nain sits almost unconscious and groans in pain. At this time, Alice stands on the troll and shouts that he killed the troll, and asks if everyone saw it, if he is asked who did it. The girls of his team praise and say, as expected from Mr. Alice, another shouts that it is incomparable. The monster disappears. Alice falls down. Instead of the monster, a crystal appears. Alice laughs slyly and thinks that this was worth expecting. He takes the crystal and thinks that he can now be considered a member of the Scarlet Falcons. This stone is his chance. He sees that the Scarlet Daria is running towards him. He is glad that she is coming here, and that she is already ready to announce his entry into the group. He rejoices, thinking that they will appreciate his victory. However, Darius runs past him, leaving him confused. He and the other girls turn to see a Scarlet Daria worried, healing Nain, who thanks her for it. Scarlet Daria looks at him with a smile and begins to think what she should do now. She rushed towards him so much. Alice comes up to them and says that he would not like to interrupt them, but he asks the great Daria to evaluate the battle, because it was simply magnificent. Scarlet Daria looks at him, stands up and says that he has too many unnecessary and thoughtless actions. She says that if this guy hadn't protected him, he would have lost consciousness at best, and the worst thing is that he ignored the chance to attack that was given to him. She says that he would have been a little more carefully. It would be better. Linda takes her away, grabbing her hand and telling her to stop. Daria doesn't understand what's going on. Where is she dragging her? Scarlet Daria asks them for forgiveness and says that it is time for them to go. They get up and disappear from the place in a second. Nain didn't realize at that moment how exactly their departure from the dungeon affected Alice's pride. Sometime later, Inu tells Nain that, if you think about it, it was beneficial for him. He asks what exactly. She replies that it was because he did this to him. Nain replies that nothing would have been different. Daria goes with them. She meows again and says that today was harsher than usual, but in any case it played into their hands, since it put an end to all his actions towards Nain. Scarlet Daria looks at him with great admiration and joy and asks if he can talk to cats too. Nain replies that maybe only with Ina. He strokes her and says that they have been together since he was born. She is like a younger sister to him. She purrs to him. Nain corrects that she is not younger but older. Scarlet Daria says that he has such a smart cat, but it seems that she doesn't like her very much. Inu turns away from her. Scarlet Daria smiles and says that she will ask him again if he is already going home. Niall asks her if she already knows everything. Daria apologizes and says that he spoke so loudly that he could be heard even on the street. Niall feels awkward about how this happened. Had she really been standing outside all this time? She says that she didn't quite understand what happened there, but she thinks that it was for the best. All the magical power that had been building up in him came out. She says that a feeling of peace and clarity filled her body. She shouts that it's delicious. Niall exhales and says that he really did let it all out. Daria says that she'd like to discuss it further. She asks what he thinks about snacks. She knows a good place. He begins to doubt. Daria says that she is treating him. Since he refuses, she will not try to force him. Niall walks in surprise and wants to agree. Anu sighs and meows, saying that they are not interested in such things. They walk along the bridge. With her magic, Daria turns on all the lights. Inu asks why she decided to hit on him. Niall asks her not to make things up. Daria says that at night it is quite dark in the city, so let her watch out so as not to trip. Daria enthusiastically asks if she can hold his hand. He awkwardly replies that it's not worth it, so everything's fine. Scarlet Daria accepts his answer. Niall thinks that she treats him like a child. Inu thinks that this girl has problems with upbringing. Daria says that she would like to clarify something with him. Perhaps he already knows about it. She says that the Scarlet Falcons team is one of the adventurers' guilds on the entire continent who have an S rank, there are only 3 of them, and both aristocrats and rich merchants from different countries ask them for help. She uses magic and says that they charge about that much for one order. 10,000 is written above her finger. Is surprised by this figure and thinks that if you don't spend a lot, you can live your whole life without worries. Daria casts a spell again and says that her income is a certain amount and shows. Niall thinks in shock that this is enough to live comfortably for at least 100 lives. Daria says that next year he can also earn the same amount, even more, because the title can be obtained in every country. Niall doesn't understand what she's talking about. Daria says that even this isn't the greatest reward, but his calling. Niall thinks that she wants to make him an errand boy. She's a princess after all. Daria tells him to fight with him in the vanguard. Niall freezes in place in horror, his head empty. Daria tells him that they need his strength. She states that together they will defeat the dragon. He remembers his thoughts about how adventurers never give up, that in order to fulfill his father's will, he must kill the dragon. He thinks about the great battle with the evil dragon. He reflects that defeating ancient dragons that live in dungeons in dangerous areas is an honorable task, and those in need in almost all countries worship the brave men who have accomplished this as heroes. He thinks that, besides, the princess standing in front of him and her friends already have 5 dragon heads in their trophy collection. Daria asks him if she has ever climbed a mountain. He clarifies the question, breaking away from his thoughts. She repeats her question, saying that it is a high place, with lots of trees, boulders, and all that. He replies that the place where he grew up is in the mountains, so yes. Daria says that she also once climbed a 3-kilometer mountain and killed a dragon that lived there. Niall thinks that she speaks as if she went to the store for bread. She continues to tell that at the top of the mountain, a person experiences indescribable sensations. Adventurers of the SS rank have also been there. Niall reflects on the fact that no one has received this title for 100 years, so some question their very existence. Daria says that no one had ever been to that place before them. They did it. They were the first to pave the way to the top. From there, it seemed as if the earth had no end. She says that when you are at the top, you can see everything that is above the clouds, in the sky and under the stars. No one can see them, but they don't see anyone either, so it's fun for her to praise her comrades for their efforts. She says that when a person looks at the stars, he understands that this is not the limit, a place where no one can climb, a place near a star to which no one knows the way. She clenches her fist and declares that they will go there. She extends her hand to him and says that they will be the first in this world. They will be able to make dreams come true. Niall couldn't say anything in response. Everything seemed to him as if in a fog. He thinks that Daria is a girl with beautiful eyes. Inside the weapon shop, Niall finally finds his sword and armor. He begs to sell it to him. He goes out and is happy that he was able to get it back, since there is only one gun shop in the city. While he and Inu are enjoying the weapon, Daria is watching him in the background and saying that he looks like a black cat. Niall turns to her and asks if this is true. She replies that it is not, trying to justify herself, but suggests that they just move on. They come to a huge castle. Daria says that they should go here. Niall sees it and wonders if the restaurant is too expensive. A waiter in a suit greets them and bows and asks them to enjoy the evening. Niall is surprised and wonders if they even have a separate room. Little by little, all the food is brought to them. Fish, chicken, soups, buns, salads, and whole pieces of meat. Niall looks at all this with great appetite. He suspects that this is some kind of scam. He has heard that there are already many scammers in the city. Scarlet Daria sees that he doubts and wishes him a pleasant appetite. He awkwardly reciprocates her feelings. He decides to start with the steak. He carefully cuts off a piece and brings it to his mouth, suspicious that it might be poisoned. He just flies away from the taste of this meat. He even staggers, because he didn't think about it. It was delicious to him in any case. He thinks that with each new piece, the taste becomes better and better. He wants to eat this meat always. It is so tasty. It is radically different from the meat of a wild boar or rabbit, which he hunted before. He begins to thank himself for being born at all, for living to this moment. He thinks that after this, he will never be able to live his previous life. Daria says it looks delicious. Niall happily agrees, then becomes embarrassed by his reaction. Daria cuts off something and says that she wants him to try it and she will eat it with him. She cuts the chicken with a smile. Niall wonders how he can learn to eat so beautifully. There are rumors that she is somewhat like a princess. Inu comes up to them and meows. She enjoys her food and asks if it is delicious. Niall looks at Inu's satisfied face with a smile. He says it was wonderful. Daria says that first she would like to ask something. She asks about the battle with the evil trolls in Tanjong, why he did not defeat him. She adds that he could have done this at any moment, so why did he only destroy the weapon? Niall begins to think about this, then calmly answers her that, of course, he could simply be killed. Daria thinks that, of course, they are still trying to improve the skills of their team members. Niall says that after he hits him, he can't eat a bite. Daria looks up in confusion. Niall says that Mr. Alis is a man who wants to personally stab the Tadome. If he was in a bad mood, he was left even without bread. He says quite calmly that he was a backup option for him, so he learned to adapt. Daria thinks to herself, is it really so? She asks the question directly. Was he really a servant to him? Niall starts to say that no, it's not like that, he says uncertainly, that he just freezes. Daria waits for his answer. Niall voices his own question out loud. Is it really useless? Daria furiously asks what he said. Niall awkwardly babbles that he can hardly use magic, his magic power is close to zero, even the guild told him to leave there. Niall begins to feel that the room seems to have become hotter. Inu also thinks that it is really hot. Niall explains that it was at that moment that he picked him up. He says that, in short, he owes him everything. Daria does not hide that she is furious about such information. She repeats the question, does he really owe everything to him? The drink in the glass begins to bubble. Inu lies down tiredly with a sigh. Niall replies that this is true. Niall starts to forgive him and say that he is grateful that she invited him. Daria suddenly stands up, slams the table, and screams that he is not useless and that it is not true. The drink spills. There is silence. Niall cools down in place. Daria sternly states that she no longer wants to hear him call himself names. Niall wants to justify himself but only apologizes again. Daria turns away. Inu choked. She meowed tiredly and long. Daria turns back to him. She asks him for forgiveness for shouting at him so harshly. She calmly sits down at the table. Niall awkwardly continues to remain silent. The waiter comes to them. Daria says that he really has almost no magic power. She also heard this from the guild. Niall asks if she really knew about this. She replies that her friends found out about it. She blushes and admits that when she says she's interested in him, he just smirks. Niall doesn't understand her. The waiter pours the drink again. She says that he cut the evil trolls club. It's a real clod of pure magic. That's why he did it with ease. The waiter hands Inu a pillow, and she beams with joy. Daria says that the speed was so great that they didn't even catch the flow. Daria says that it's as if she doesn't understand anything, and that he's better than even her with S rank. She bangs her fist on the table again and says that he is strong, that's what it means. She asks him sternly if he still thinks he is useless. She loses her temper again and shouts that they are stupid for calling him that. She sits back down and apologizes that she shouldn't have yelled at him again. She clenches her fist and says with restraint that it makes her angry. Niall thinks that he feels like he's gonna cry. Daria says that whoever Alis is, she asks him not to call him Lord. Niall agrees and says that he left the group. Daria happily shouts that that's great. She asks him what he thinks about joining her group. She wants him to reach his true potential with her and her people. Niall openly replies that, in his opinion, he does not have any abilities. Daria says what low self-esteem he has. Niall talks about uselessness. Again, Daria ignores it and says that despite his youth, he already loves adventures and even learned to fight with swords. Niall says that this is not true because he is only in his 2nd month of school. Daria asks again in shock. Niall thinks about how to do it so that she does not jump up from her seat. Daria thinks that he has been training for only 2 months and already knows how to do so much. He says that his father taught him how to use a sword since childhood. Daria says that they learned this together. Now she understands how he cut through that trolls club. Niall says that he actually used a lot of magic at that moment. Daria asks when he did that. He wonders if she can believe it. He remembers Alis's words, telling him to stop messing around, and that's how he got kicked out. He opens his sword and tells her that he can defeat magic. That is the skill of a 5-star fencing school. Daria looks at him happily. A silence of jubilation falls. Niall thought absently that she was very cute. At the entrance to Bible's dungeon, Daria and her team tell Nain that they are waiting for him with impatience. They call him quickly and ask him to show them, the Scarlet Falcons, what he is really capable of. Nain does this with great desire. A few hours earlier, after leaving the restaurant, Nain and Daria headed to the dungeon. He thinks that the 7-star sword style, a technique that cuts through magic, would be easiest to demonstrate in action, so the two temporarily joined a group. It became Daria's group, the Scarlet Falcons. On the way, Inu meows, asking Nain if he is sure he wants to show her his 5-star technique. She thinks that Daria seems suspicious. Nain listens to her attentively, and then asks her not to be so harsh. The cat meows back at him. They walk, Nain saying that he never thanked her for the food, although he's not sure that the demonstration of technology will be enough to pay for that steak. Inu meows again. Daria apologizes for interrupting her conversation with Kisea. Nain doesn't understand what kitty she's talking about. Daria awkwardly asks if that sounds weird. Nain replies that it doesn't, but her name is Inu. But Inu gets angry at the nickname. She acts mischievous and sticks her tongue out at Daria. Daria asks Nain if she can call him by his first name. He finds it strange and allows her. Daria happily calls him Nain and asks why then she is not just Daria yet. Then she laughs loudly and says it's a joke. As they walk across the river, Daria tells him she ask him directly. She asks him decisively if he likes girls. He crosses his arms and asks the question again in bewilderment. Daria proudly asks him if he finds her attractive. Nain smiles awkwardly and does not know what to answer. Daria asks if he wants to become lovers first, then spouses, and get married. Nain blushes even more and looks at her in shock. Daria confidently asks him what he thinks about her. He doesn't understand at all what he should answer to this. She finally says that she thinks she is very beautiful and cool. He thinks out loud about dating directly and immediately asks her for forgiveness, hiding his gaze. Daria comes close to him and puts her hands on his shoulders, so that Nain twitches from her pressure. She asks him with shining eyes if he really thinks she's cool. He awkwardly confirms it. Daria says that she has no charm and he does not see her as a woman. Nain admits that he did not say such a thing. Daria declares that the test has been passed. Nain looks at her in shock and then asks what she is talking about. Daria explains that there are 3 people in the Scarlet Falcons. They have been together since school, 3 best friends. Daria says that the maximum number of people in a team is 4. If you think about it, this number is optimal. She says that they can't find the 4th one, unfortunately. Nain listens to her with interest. She assumes that if they take a girl into the team and she falls in love with the leader, the appearance, character, background, the leader is impeccable, obviously. Such a person already has a bride in his homeland. Daria adds that this is why the leader breaks up with the new girl and she leaves the team. She speaks disappointedly about fame. She says that it's the same story with guys. For example, if she fell in love with a friend and he turned her down, she definitely wouldn't be able to stand it. It's happened 10 times already. Nain is surprised by such revelations. Daria speaks about Naina with hope and trust, that he is a different matter. She does not awaken animal passion in him. She speaks doubtfully about Linda, that she cannot guarantee that she is not in love with her best friend. Until she sees it herself, she will never know. She speaks up and asks, since they have such a rule, how does he treat boys? Does he like them? Nain replies that he doesn't, in his opinion. Daria happily says that this is great, so she invites him to meet the other two. They will see them. They don't know yet that she is going to accept her into the team. Nain asks in surprise if they will really meet in the middle of the night, and in a dungeon he thinks that it will really be unexpected. Daria tells him not to worry. At the entrance to the dungeons, Linda scolds Daria and tells her to finally start thinking about others, and that this is no longer acceptable. Daria stands there guiltily and tries to justify herself, but Linda shouts at her how many times she told her about her bad habit. Before doing something, you need to think. She asks what these night walks are. She caused them without their knowledge, using magic. Daria asks for forgiveness. Niall thinks about how angry she is at the princess. Linda tells her not to have dinner with someone after running out of the room, especially with him. Daria thinks that it's just dinner with Nain. The leader comes out and calms Linda down. The leader's name is Eugene. He says that everything is fine. It seems to him that they are right for each other. Daria shouts at them that they are not dating yet. Linda does not understand in what sense this means that they are not dating yet. Nain asks to be allowed to introduce himself, but Daria gets ahead of him and says that his name is Nain. Eugene says that he knows this because he made inquiries in the guild. Next to him stands a calm Linda. Daria points to Eugene and says that this guy with a pretty face is the leader. He seems suspicious on the outside, but in fact he is good, so he shouldn't worry. Eugene doesn't understand whether she just humiliated him or praised him. Eugene extends his hand to Nain and says that they will be acquainted. Nain asks to take care of him. Daria thinks about the fact that they have not yet shaken hands. Nain thinks that he must be a healer mage. He realized at first glance that he was stronger than everyone here put together. He understands that he is using his magic for defense, plus it requires effort. Eugene suggests to hurry. Linda agrees and says that they need to carefully examine everything again. Maybe at least this time luck will smile on them. They say among themselves that, however, it was quite unexpected that she called them, despite the fact that they had just gone to bed. Daria approaches Nain and also extends her hand, saying that she is glad to meet him. He shakes her hand and replies that the feeling is mutual. Inside Bible's dungeon, everything is damp and dark. Bats fly and squeak, making a terrible sound. Daria tells that an invisible hand flows through the dungeon, which is called the Artery of the Soul. This river gives birth to monsters. Since magic stones and useful loot can be obtained from monsters, a city was founded near the dungeon which still exists today, and this city is called Bibel. Be in danger if it starts to neglect the fact that monsters can subjugate or even exterminate the entire population. The dungeon located under the city, despite the presence of dangerous monsters, is safe for people. That is, Babel's dungeons are ideal in terms of difficulty for beginner and mid-level adventurers. Daria says that he is sure that he already knew about it. Nain confidently shouts that he is hearing about it for the first time and thanks her. Daria pats Nain on the head and smiles and says that he is so sincere and honest, making him blush. He is disappointed to think that she is treating him like a child again. Inu thinks that he needs to be careful with her. On the way, Linda gives the others the command to stop and stand. She listens with the thought that, Mirdrura, it seems, the enemies are nearby. There's darkness ahead. She reports that these are small fry. 4 monsters almost 2 meters tall, most likely hobgoblins, armed with axes and clubs. Eugene says they LL cover them. Daria looks at Nain with hope and determination. She tells him to show them the magic cutting technique, the 7-star swordsmanship style. Nain tells her that it will be done. They feel the roar approaching. The monsters slowly approach them. Nain comes out to meet them and throws them into a stupor. Eugene asks Nain what he is going to do with these hobgoblins. Nain raises his sword. The monsters growl at him. One monster attacks him first. Nain calmly waves his sword. The next second, the monster loses its head. The monsters start to panic. Nain says that now he promised to show them the dissection of magic. Inu looks out from his hood and meows sweetly to him. In a split second, Nain manages to kill several goblins, not even giving them time to react to the attacks. Everyone loses their head or limbs, leaving only one who frantically looks around, trying to deflect the blow. Something at his foot. When he shines down, he notices the heads of his comrades. Nain stands confidently, and then remembers something and says with regret that he completely forgot. He beat them without using magic. Inu says that he is stupid. The remaining monster flies towards him with an attack. His club starts to burn. The monster throws him towards Nain. Eugene watches and thinks that the fire in this torch is magical, and although this hobgoblin is a small fry, he has enough strength for one such attack. He thinks that the boy is definitely stronger than F rank. A fireball flies at him, and he doesn't even try to dodge. Nain takes a deep breath. Deep breathing is not a special technique, he says to himself. Let him use magic and kill the evil sphere. He then uses his magic cutting technique, causing the fire torch to be cut right next to him. Linda and Eugene are seriously surprised, and Daria watches the action with special pride and joy. Nain opens his eyes and, with his sword raised, says that the 7-star style is faster than the wind. Nain disappears from the place that neither the goblin nor the other guys can see or notice him. Suddenly, he appears behind the monster and plunges his sword straight into its skull. He kills the last monster. He pulls out his sword. Daria thinks that he is fast. An ordinary person would only notice the swing of the sword. 7-star Windspeeder is the same as Shikuchi in martial arts. In a nutshell, Shikuchi refers to a method of movement that uses one's own weight to accelerate. Using Shikuchi, Nain instantly appeared behind the hobgoblin and struck. Nain calmly wipes the blood off his sword with a rag. He turns to the team and wonders if this demonstration is enough, and sees the satisfied and awkward faces of Eugene and Linda and the proud Daria. He approaches them. Daria says that she is absolutely sure that there was no magic in the blade. Eugene remains silent, and Linda confirms her words, saying that there was none. Daria says she can't imagine how he did it. Even she didn't notice. Linda says she didn't notice anything either. Eugene joins in and says that this is truly incredible. Just some kind of circus trick, and if he were told that this was the work of a kitsune, he would even believe it. He asks Darius if she is absolutely sure that it is not magic. She replies that she is 100% sure. He himself said that he almost never uses magic. He shows his sword. Daria says that it is just a special style, Eugene thinks. After a silence, he says that, as a rule, all adventurers are magicians. Daria says that this is not necessary. He never fit in with them. Nain calmly collects his tools. Eugene wearily says that this is a special case and wonders what to do with him. They do not know all his abilities, and without this, he will not be able to make a decision. Daria looks at him and then suggests that they test all his abilities. Linda and Eugene look at her in surprise. Daria turns away. Linda, in a panic, asks her to wait and asks what she has in mind, where she took the magic stone. Eugene also shouts at her to come back. Hinemek, stop and not rush with this. Nain feels someone's hand on his shoulder and sees that it is Daria, who is smiling strangely at him. She tells him to go, showing him the crystal, which begins to glow brightly. Nain does not understand what is happening, and Linda and Eugene are worried. After a bright flash, Nain wipes his eyes and does not understand what just happened to him. Inu meows, looking around. He also looks around and sees a completely different place, not like in that dungeon. He does not understand what kind of creepy place this is. He stands in front of a multitude of mushroom-like plants. The area is surrounded by tree trunks, and all of this is fenced off with a lattice. Near the border of the kingdom of Gatelio, on the eastern part of the continent of Armenica, something is beginning. The heroes are in a dangerous area where humanity lives, the Mule Forest. Linda, Eugene, and Daria are there too, but not everyone is particularly happy about it. Nain turns awkwardly to them and asks what's going on. Linda again scolds Daria for what she has in her head instead of brains. She asks how did she have the intelligence to use the magic stone in when will she start thinking with her head? Daria tells them not to panic, not to rush. She calmly and confidently states that she has a plan. Linda says suspiciously that she believed her. Daria suggests explaining everything to Nain first. She explains that they have now strayed a bit from their original mission, and she wants him to help defeat the monster. Eugene, off to the side, thinks that this is a poor explanation. Eugene explains that their mission is to fulfill requests coming from the kingdom of Gatilio, the essence of which is that, in the event of an expansion of the danger zone, they will free people from the threat. From the border of the kingdom to the sea, the forest stretches for several hundred kilometers. Monsters live throughout its entire territory, however. The forest is still expanding, and its name is Mule. If in case of danger the adventurers of the kingdom are unable to cope, they go into battle, but they have already lost twice. He says that by morning, this forest will reach the borders of their kingdom. This means that the population, the territory of the country, and the people's trust in them will fall into its dense embrace. He says that this is their last chance. They tried to improve their swords, but did not meet the deadline. Besides Bus, they do not have any support from the guild. He admits that they wanted to give up and leave everything to chance. Nain says that can't be, wondering if they really didn't come just to kill monsters. Eugene says that this is a great battle with the Dragon of Evil. Nain looks at Daria, who nods in agreement. She says that she will ask him again. She offers to defeat the dragon together with them, the Scarlet Falcons. Having used the magic stone, all the guys found themselves at the base of the Scarlet Falcons team next to the tent. This place, according to Eugene, is surrounded by a magical shield that protects humanity. Outside of it, people who absorb magic die within a couple of minutes, but there is a way to avoid this. Linda, who always keeps an eye out for monsters, has a robe that gives her a special ability. Linda states that she refuses. Eugene and Daria look at her for a long time. Daria asks her to listen. Magic summoning is an ability that uses magic to bind to a specific person, and Linda can also bind to multiple people at once. But it turns out that the connection with Nain is closed. Linda, who could even think of asking him for help in the fight against the dragon, she thinks that this guy will become a hindrance to them. He just shouldn't have agreed. She talks about the first-class cuisine, admiration for it. That's the only reason he agreed, in her opinion. Daria looks at him in a stupor, and then, with red cheeks, asks if he really admires her. Linda tells her to put her embarrassment aside. She thinks that she is taking advantage of his feelings for her. Daria says that it is possible. Linda warns that if he fails, he will die. Daria states that she does not think so. Linda shouts that he has only been an adventurer for 3 months. It is complete nonsense. With his experience, or rather with the lack of it, he wants to fight a dragon. Daria says that they, by the way, 3 months after becoming adventurers, were able to defeat the dragon. She is indignant that she found someone to compare with. Besides Chaya, there were 3 of them. Daria sadly says that he trains a lot. Linda thinks that he doesn't have magic either. She asks if this is true. Daria replies that he has a sword that cuts through magic. Isn't that enough? She's interested in that. Linda wearily tells her that she understands that she likes this boy, but they don't know what he is really capable of. She agrees with Daria's words that his sword can cut through magic, but this could have happened purely by accident. Daria says with a smile that she believes what she saw. Linda falls silent. Eugene asks the girls to stop arguing. His power is still poorly known to them. He is confident that he can handle it. Besides Grizizi, they need him to complete the mission. This time, they must win. He immediately adds that one must not forget about the risks, and this especially concerns her. Darius, she is a danger, so he wants to offer her something Klien Samtai since they have the same attack. He tells her to lend Nain her talisman of substitution. It gives 2 chances to avoid an attack. In case of danger, he will be able to save himself immediately. For example, the one received from the Joker. Linda says she has a question. She says no one considered the possibility that Daria would risk herself to protect. Nain, there is a chance she would die because of him. He hasn't trained much. If she were to protect him, she would go to her death. Eugene says, standing inside the tent with the leaves, that if she covers him, she can save herself and him by using the talisman. Linda argues that if he only has 1 try left, if Daria decides to cover for the boy, then she should promise not to use the talisman. Eugene asks Daria what she will say. She turns to him and replies that she promises not to do it. She says that Nain will receive the talisman and will be able to survive. If he gets into trouble, she will not cover for him. However, if she has to, she will not use the talisman, they convinced her. She smiles bitterly and says that when someone is in trouble, the body itself strives to help. but she will hold back. She still cannot convince them. Linda asks her not to think about the fact that they want to manipulate her. They are one team, and they need to take care of each other. Daria smiles and thanks Linda and says that she is glad that she has friends like them. She tells them that she loves them. Linda is surprised, and then says that since everyone understood, then that's good. She apologizes if she was too harsh. Eugene also smiles and says that it's nice. Eugene tells them both that he has made a decision. He announces that they will take Nain with them. Inu wakes up and yawns sweetly. Eugene hands Nain a talisman that will help him save himself just once. He takes it and looks closely at the card. He asks if it was really just once. Eugene replies that the principle of substitution is at work here. It is a joker after all. He explains that the talisman can be used in two cases: when he saves himself from danger, or when Daria protects him. Nain is surprised at the mention of Daria. Eugene says that we still shouldn't forget about her character. Nain reflects that she is indeed a brave princess who will always come to the rescue. He tells him that he will try to stay out of their way. Eugene pats him on the shoulder and asks him to show his best. Nain looks at him with admiration. Eugene walks forward and says that there are 30 seconds left before it starts. The two of them will go forward. He asks them if they are ready. Daria answers with a smile that they are, and together with her, Nain answers that he is ready. Eugene points his palms at them. Everything starts to glow. Nain looks at his hands in surprise. Impact on magic armor with magic leads to the appearance of glowing lines. The brightness of the glow directly depends on the amount of magic. In battle, the glow will not be an advantage because it is immediately noticeable. Eugene thinks that this is preparation for battle. The Scarlet Falcons are the brave defenders of the kingdom. He believes that they will demonstrate all their fighting power. He will give it his all. The phenomenon of glow is proof of the presence of fighting spirit. Daria opens her eyes. John, this glow is a symbol of her serious intentions. Eugene shouts that everything is ready, so they start in 10 seconds. He tells them to get ready. He says that they will stop the ancient dragon and protect all of humanity. He starts the countdown and at 0 uses teleportation. They begin. The action takes place in the magic school of Lv999. The professor at the lecture said that it is necessary to take advantage of the moment and remember the history of the battles that took place on the continent of Armenica. Linda and Eugene listened attentively and wrote down the lecturer's words. Daria sat nearby and tried not to fall asleep. The professor said that in the old days it was not considered a bad idea to wear something flashy. Although at that time there was no magical armor and all that stuff. At that time, magic was considered something mysterious and only a few could use it. And most often these were cavalrymen and infantrymen, and also mercenary troops who fought in uniforms to maintain the fighting spirit of the soldiers. He goes on to say that the invention of magical weapons changed the course of military operations radically. In modern times, flashy and bright things in battle are more often a disadvantage than something acceptable. This is found both among the army troops and adventurers. Daria raises her head in surprise at the professor's words. The professor said that in the future, outstanding students of the Lv999 Magic School will become magicians and then will definitely face dangerous battles. Eugene agreed after hearing these words. In the event that enemies take command of demons or other monsters during battle, the glow from the magic armor will become a hindrance. Eugene recalls a battle he fought in. He then said that they were Scarlet Falcons and called his comrades to battle. Nain and Daria landed on the ground. This was the beginning of the battle. All around the forest, different sounds began to be heard. There was a rustling sound and someone's whisper. Nain listened in surprise. He said that the forest seemed alive. Daria grinned and told Nain not to worry. She explained that the forest was angry and they weren't particularly welcome here. That looked like wolves with huge fangs started running out of the forest. Along with the wolves, other monsters and a huge ogre appeared. Nain and Daria prepared to fight. The monsters surrounded the heroes. One of the wolves rushed at Daria from behind. Nain saw this and shouted to warn the girl of the danger. Daria threw her sword at the wolf so that it flew off to the side. The other wolves also attacked. The girl returned the sword and hit another wolf with it. A loud sound came from Daria's blow, which surprised Nain. He asked if it was the sound of the blow or the sword. He looked at the weapon warily. At this moment, the monsters continued to advance. Linda stood on the wall of the fortress and watched what was happening through the sight of her gun. She was surprised by the bright explosions in the forest. Linda saw that there were no bosses nearby. The forest attacked at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour. Linda thought the monsters were scared because everyone was tense. There were scary birds, big spiders, ogres, evil trolls. Linda thought that, compared to last time, the number of monsters had increased by 20%, almost 150 heads. Life would probably never appear again on the site where the battle had taken place. Linda said that perhaps she should have thought before smashing everything. Daria was outraged by her words. She asked where Linda's tenderness had gone, and told the girl to apologize and say that she loved Daria. Linda replied that it was Daria who said so. She added that everything was fine and that Daria should not start an argument. Daria noted with a satisfied smile that Linda had confessed to her. Daria shouted, calling for Nain-kun. Nain turned around in surprise and then began to rise into the air. The girl flew out of the forest, taking the astonished Nain with her. The heroes were flying over the forest. Nain looked at Daria. The girl was hovering in the air, holding a sword in her hands. Shining rays emanated from her, and her cloak fluttered in the air. She closed her eyes. Nain-kun recalled how before the battle, he, Eugene, and Daria were talking about the battle. Nain then asked Daria how they were going to attack the forest. The girl approached Nain. She asked if he had ever been to the theater. Daria said that among the race that was on good terms with humans, unbridled protests began, and 3 days later, the final play in the theater was the legendary, quote, play on fire. Quote, the naked sword must burn the forest of the elves. It was also called the Sword of Dragon's Doom and the Flaming Flower. It was the same sword that she held in her hands when she and Nain soared above the forest. Once the dragon-slaying sword is drawn, the deformation process is activated. The deformation has 4 stages. At the first stage, the sword is in the sheath. At the second stage, the weapon is discovered. When exposed to magic, a hole appears from the middle. This is the future sword. An extremely high temperature is maintained inside the sheath. The third stage involves liberation. When interacting with magic, the sword is born. And finally, the fourth stage involves the maximum release of the sword's power. The concept of the weapon is simple and clear. Only one person once in a century can call upon such powerful magic. And that person is Daria. After telling about the sword, the girl ordered the mythical creature Bahamut Nova to scream. Nain and Daria continued to fly over the forest. The release of all of Daria's power led to a large explosion. A fearless battle ensues, with lives at stake. Nain and Daria hover above the explosion. Everything is floating. Nain covers herself with her hand. Flowers are torn off. Everything is shaking. The whole forest is set on fire. Linda confirms the explosion, sitting from afar. She says that Uahamut will burn Mule to the ground again. She thinks to herself that, however, the most important thing will begin now. She sees that something is sparkling. A separate part of the forest also explodes. The mana, which is very abundant in the magical forest, reacted with Daria's magical flame. The explosions are becoming more frequent. This has caused a chain reaction, resulting in a series of explosions. Linda thinks it is like a spark in a powder keg. A huge explosion reaches up to the sky. Linda watches and thinks to herself that this is not the end. This explosion kills all the monsters. They float in the sky together with the flames like a tornado. Stones fly to the sides. She anticipates that at the epicenter of the strongest explosion, a vacuum funnel has formed, which absorbs everything in its path. Linda is knocked off her feet. She can barely stand. She understands that she has problems with mana. She can't even contact anyone. She understands that if it weren't for the protective magic, only a coal would have remained of her long ago. Something is dripping on her. She looks up and sees clouds gathering in the sky and a thunderstorm beginning. She understands, smiles, and says that it's not even bad. She doesn't even know what to say. The tornado evaporates in an instant. Nain sees that even the weather has changed. After all, this is the strongest attacking mage on the entire continent. Suddenly they hear and see a huge monster below. Nain wonders if he really survived even after such an explosion. Before Daria, Linda tries to connect. She asks if she can hear her. Daria replies that she can hear her perfectly well. Linda says that there are about 80 monsters left alive. She asks how many of them have already discovered them. Daria says that 80 section of Baidivai has expected. They were born from the magical forest. She says that this is true. Daria is indignant that they are such tenacious bastards. Linda sternly says that now is not the time for jokes. Daria says that from now on they will fight to the point of total extermination. She asks to cover them. Linda obeys and asks them to take care of themselves. She goes on the attack. Nain is not far behind and says in flight that it is cool. He admires and shouts that Daria is incredible. Daria is surprised and says with a smile that he is incredible, since he could say that it is cool after what he saw. When she first made an attack, she was also surprised. She says that the monsters have weakened. Without the energy of the forest, they will not last long. She tells Nain to get ready. He replies that he obeys her. They fly straight to the monster. Daria readies her weapon and uses a photon blade that slices through the monster, causing it to disappear in half, leaving only its legs. Daria sighs and then kills the remaining 3 monsters with the same swing. Nain watches her. She turns to him and says that they will have to part ways here, she suggests, meeting at the bosses. Nain listens to her and agrees. Daria asks him if he will really be okay alone. He diligently answers that, of course. He says admiringly that for the first time in a long time he feels like he can do this. Oh, it's so exciting for him. Inu looks out and nods. Daria grins at this reaction. She agrees with him and says that they will see each other later. Nain leaves and informs her about this. Nain leaves. Daria watches him go. She smiles again and then laughs loudly. She turns to the forest and asks what happened. She says that if he does not show his face, all his subordinates will be killed. The monster roars so that the earth trembles. Nain easily kills the monsters. Daria also tries. Eugene watches them from afar. He thinks that so far everything is going according to plan, even though there are still a few monsters left. Linda tells Eugene that a group of ogres are heading towards Daria, and he immediately replies that he accepted her warning. The monsters are really heading towards Daria. Eugene thinks that evil trolls, ogres, let there be at least 50 of them, at least 80, that doesn't matter. The divine staff of dragon-slaying heaven that Eugene holds is made of holy wood, which is said to actually be a spirit that has sprouted from the earth. It is a staff that slays dragons. He casts a spell, let the blinding whiteness, compressed into a single point, burn, destroy, embrace reality, break free, glue the parts and tear the whole apart, and every original sin turn into nothingness. Something appears above the heads of the monsters. Some kind of molecule with rings, and then in an instant it explodes, wiping all the monsters off the face of the earth. Some of the monsters that weren't affected by this spell are finished off from behind by Daria. Eugene simultaneously uses agility charms on her. The monster loses its guard from Daria's blow. Eugene continues to support them with magic. The huge monster swings its club in front of Nain. A large shield appears right in front of Nain, protecting him from the attack. Eugene adds a slowdown to the monster, allowing him to strike. Most of the spells that Eugene cast were the same ones that many sages famous for their power used, and they became the basis for their witchcraft. He uses the dragon's power on Nina and Daria, who begin to strengthen their powers and prepare to attack. Eugene looks at them proudly. Linda informs him that birds are approaching from the right flank. Eugene looks back and sees the birds cawing and flying straight at them. Huge, toothy, dark-winged birds fly in to attack them. These birds are called mantalos. These are annoying monsters that fly in flocks and are a threat only to a C-class adventurer. A small ball of magic appears from Eugene's finger, which then attacks with a huge beam of dragon fire. He easily kills the entire flock of birds with this beam. Eugene stands calmly with his finger extended. Suddenly, one of the surviving birds appears right behind him and wants to attack him, but several beams hit the monster, preventing him from doing so. Eugene smirks. Linda asks if he wants to thank her. He replies that, of course, one should thank for one's work. Linda says indignantly how boring he is. Eugene only thanks her, and she grumbles, "Is that all?" Eugene doesn't understand and wonders if he said something wrong. Suddenly, he notices something. Nain, Linda and Daria look around. Eugene tells everyone to be alert because he is already here. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking, and then spears come out of the ground and pierce the monsters. Everything shakes and starts to collapse. A huge mouth with sharp teeth is visible from the ground, which continues to scream and growl at everyone. Everything is shaking. Daria just hovers right in front of what is happening and does not even move in fear. The monster comes out of enormous size. Eugene clarifies that this is the third time already. Daria confirms this and says with a smile that this is true, but now he will not leave alive. Linda listens to them and, less emotionally, says that she wants to clarify. She asks Nain if he is still alive. Nain moves at high speed and jumps from one cliff to another, and then stands on a high place, smiling and shouting that he is alive. Yes, exactly. He admires the fact that he is so huge. His eyes are shining, he asks. After all, it is a stone turtle. All three of them are awkwardly silent, asking, does he really like all this? After all, it is a dragon. In ancient times, the divine dragon and the remaining humans fought against a common enemy. The war began with joint efforts. The dragon roars at them. Daria confidently says that this time they will kill him. Suddenly the earth splits. A certain monster's hand emerges from this hole, and behind it, other monsters of different types can already be seen. Nain asks in surprise if the monsters are really crawling out from under the ground. Eugene explains that the main ability of the Earth Dragon is to move the Earth's cover within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. The Earth Dragons have worked the territory of this forest, giving birth to all these monsters. The monsters they encountered so far are not inferior in strength to those crawling out of the ground. Daria reports that there are many more of them than there were before. She asks what they will do. Will they really blow everything up again? They tell her that it is not necessary, and that she should stop blowing everything up. Her strength is not infinite. Asks Eugene what he thinks about the explosion. If they can. Eugene replies that they have one chance. She must get closer to them and hit them with all her strength, like she did before. Daria replies that it will be done. Eugene shouts to the Scarlet Falcons that this is a crucial moment, so let them go forward. Daria smiles and says to do everything in their power. Linda obeys them. Nain thinks to himself that he is not even a member of the team. Inu doesn't lag behind and meows ambitiously. Nain awkwardly calls her name. She meows back. He climbs over the rocks. Daria kills one of the spider monsters. A bird follows, which wanted to get to her from behind, but was killed. Linda prepares her weapon from afar and aims forward. She kills the bird that was flying to Daria. Linda quickly moves to another place. Linda shoots from a new point and hits numerous birds that were flying towards Eugene. Daria sees all this and thinks that it is brave and clever. A demon with a spider stands and growls. Daria walks through the monster, leaving a hole in his stomach. Daria does not understand what it was. She feels that the enemies are becoming much stronger, but despite this, they are easy to fight. Eugene thinks that taking this position is really suitable. It's all Nain who brings up the monsters. Daria thinks that everything is the same as last time. This is a feature in strategy and dexterous movements. Being in certain positions in the vanguard, he helps the members of the group to quickly orient themselves on the battlefield. Then she sees the entire battle area. Several monsters surround Nain, but she easily deals with each of them. Linda watches the fight. Suddenly a monster appears above her. Then she notices that numerous birds are flying towards her. She realizes that they have found her, thinking that there is only one thing left to do. Then Nain comes on the line and tells her to watch from below. She runs away as the earthen boulders crawl out. She says it's dangerous. If Nain hadn't told her, she would already be a corpse. She thinks that someone blocked her radars with magic. Even Mule noticed her. Could he have found her by the traces of the shots? She thinks that if the sniper is caught, then he is finished, so things are bad. She is indignant that she cannot fly like these two. She decides to stay in a visible place for a while. She muses that if she overdoes it, she will become food for these monsters, much like a shrike impaling its prey on a branch. She pulls out her hand and resolutely wants to do something, but then the ground falls out from under her feet. She asks someone to come, calls for shining salvation. A bright bird appears in the sky and flies straight towards her, falling down. She and the bird fly across the sky. She is surprised at how fast it is. She was on the verge of death. This is salvation in the midst of a fierce battle. The monsters chase Linda. She flies on her bird and screams that they will never catch her. Crossbow, peregrine falcon. Designed for killing dragons, it is a relic of a dragon hunter. Linda kills some birds, after which she playfully sticks out her tongue. She looks at Nain through the machine to check. He immediately turns to her, which surprises Linda. She noticed her even at such a distance. Come to think of it, this happened before the Earth Dragon appeared. 3 portals were opened. She was covering 3 people at the same time. She wonders if it's true what they say about Nain, that he has eyes in the back of his head, that he doesn't touch the shots, or if he acts like that to lure the target and help him attack it. She blushes and says that it is wonderful, thinking that this is the best aim, and besides, these arrows do not work immediately. Daria and Eugene understand this, but even together they do not do what Nain does, in her opinion. If they focus on attacking together, they might collide and cause trouble, and they know it. So Linda's job is to cover them. She has to protect them from attacking enemies and kill those they don't notice. But with Nain, it's different. The bird monsters fly straight towards Nain. He looks confidently and then jumps from his place. The bullet flies towards the monsters. He dodges. Linda is surprised and thinks that by not getting hit by bullets, he opens up a target for her shot. That is, he himself tells her when to shoot. She wonders if he even sees the shots. She asks him how he understood, now and then, that the attack was successful. Nain turns around and says that it's all swordsmanship. Meanwhile, Eugene flies across the area. He looks around and thinks that the stakes that are bursting out of the ground will not rise higher. Due to the lack of mana, their attack power is reduced. He notices a certain swirl and is surprised to see something. He steps back and thinks that, fortunately, one can guess about the impending attack by the crater formed on the ground. Due to 2 defeats in the past, they know a lot of information about the enemy. Before the battle, Eugene told Nain everything. It is incredible to him how, relying on the knowledge he gained, he successfully continues to evade the enemy's attacks. He notices the attack coming in an instant. Eugene admits that this guy gives him the creeps. He thinks that he needs to be more careful too. As soon as the ground starts shaking, he needs to attack without delay. Here he sees that the birds are flying straight towards him. Chores, is this really an attack from all sides? He dodges one, almost getting hit. He moves away from the birds and then uses his staff to kill them all. He wonders if this is all, and then realizes that it is not. The Mantalos and earthen stakes attack, trapping him in a confined space. Something is dripping on him from above. He sees earthen craters below. He nervously thinks, will it all happen at once? The stakes fly up sharply, but he flies out of the trap and breaks out without wounds. He looks at his stomach and wonders if he was thrown back by the shot. He thinks, could it really be Linda's arrow? She must have saved him. Linda has nothing to do with it. Eugene sees this and thinks that this can't be. Nain fired a bullet from afar. Eugene thinks that he noticed what happened and fired. It's incredible. He didn't have time to tell him anything, and he was right there. He shouts to Nain that he saved him, but Eugene doesn't understand how he did it. Nain turns to him and briefly replies that it is skill with a sword, not just magic. Daria flies through the sky and says with joy that she is almost caught up. She flies after Nain, who is jumping along the ground. She fought off the other monsters to clear a path for Nain and ensure the greatest maneuverability. Daria muses that Nain still cannot use flight magic. However, the appearance of the Earth Dragon has led to the beginning of the second phase of the offensive. It accelerates. In the process of moving, it kills all the monsters that it encounters on its way. She feels some discomfort. She loses sight of Nain. He just ran. Why is he not there? She thinks that she did not reach Nain. He has shukuchi, a special technique of fast movement, which allows to shorten the distance. It doesn't look like he used a gun. All the monsters were killed with his sword. Even though Eugene's magic armor and buffs make the fight much easier, it speaks of his mana boost. Daria realizes that she can't. Nain is moving at high speed. She had to catch up with him. Nain jumps from stake to stake, a spider monster jumps out in front of him, he deals with it without any problems. Daria thinks that nothing can stop him. He kills a crowd of monsters with one blow. Daria admires that one blow without slowing down, and the monsters with earthen stakes are killed. He reaches the earthen crater. Nain thinks, are they really appearing around? It seems he understands the principle of their attack. He kills again with one swing of numerous earthen stakes. Daria wonders if he really has magic for predicting the future. She had heard that there was magic in space and time, but the future was changeable. When they saw the future, they could only learn about one of several possible outcomes. This magic does not allow one to know the future. For sure, it cannot be used in a real battle, but it is unlikely that Nain knows about this. Monsters appear in front of her. She thinks that she is no worse. She has comparable technology, and this is not a miracle at all. She activates magic and flies up, thereby frightening the monsters. A large flow of energy emanates from her. This is not bragging, because she has had the strongest magic since birth and at the same time skillfully handles it. Her technique surpasses magic itself many times over. There are high elves, but even they are not able to skillfully handle strong magic. She disappears from sight in front of the monsters, and then in an instant deprives them all of their heads, not giving them time to react. Although, even she does not always understand her abilities. As soon as she flies away from the monsters, everything behind her suddenly explodes. She wonders why she can be aware of what and how she did before, and why after that she understands what she needs to do next. She continues to wonder what her power is. She sees Nain and is glad that she is finally caught up with him. However, she then assumes that Nain forced her to catch up with him. Suddenly, Nain flies back to her, lets her pass by, and stands in front of the stakes that attacked them from behind. He takes them out with one blow, and Daria thinks about how she reacted too late. She thanks him, but immediately asks how he saw them. Nain turns to her with a smile, shows her his weapon, and says that it's all about swordsmanship. Daria smiles at him, and Linda and Eugene stand in shock, not knowing what to say. Inu comes out and meows. Nain blushes and says that it is true. Daria lowers her head as if she is upset, then sighs. After that, all three of them look up and indignantly asks if there is even a limit to this swordsmanship. Nain wonders if they really didn't accept that answer. Nain shouts several times in a row that this is all cool. He jumps joyfully and shouts that he is stronger than ever. He flies like the wind. He flies up to the monsters from below and says with glowing eyes that the S-rank buffs are simply excellent. Inu rejoices with him. Nain goes on the attack and at the same time thinks about the fact that every person is initially capable of magic. He is far from the strength of S-class heroes. He muses that Eugene's attire and Daria's armor usually buff the same. Daria said that once you put on the armor, there is no limit to your power. Nain thinks that he is even envious somehow. Then he looks up and thinks that the 7-star style of fencing comes to those who do not expect it. He approaches the monster and thinks that these are his father's words. Even if you are weak and unable to use magic, you can always learn the technique of wielding a sword. He dodges the monster's attack and lands a blow on him if he knows how to handle this weapon. Under the buff, his attacks will be amazingly powerful. He thinks to himself that he jumped so high. He is happy that he jumped so high, as if he were a cat. He lands, but sees that there is a crater under him. He remembers Eugene's words that they were then preparing to attack these earthen stakes. He sighs. He thinks that he needs to bring his breathing in order. Skillful swordsmanship is the foundation of the basics, necessary to anticipate the actions of enemies. He uses the 7-star swordsmanship style, Heavenly Ash. He concentrates. Using the sword, Nain stops time. The world in his eyes becomes black and white. He sees the dark sky in white colors, and the shining stars become black, like ash falling from the sky. Nain's abilities are not limited to this. He is also able to see thoughts and feelings. Nain sees bright rivers of thoughts and feelings, although it would be more correct to call them lines. Lines can be of different sizes and lengths. They move around the world while time stands still. Attack lines. Nain thinks that this is just a theory that he heard from his father. But this is how the world has seemed to him since childhood. When he jumps, the magical power resonates with the mana in the atmosphere, so he can confidently predict the future actions of any person, just as he guessed. He thinks it might be like a dolphin making an ultrasound, but that's not certain either. Now he sees how the earthen stakes want to pierce him, and how Linda will attack them. He thinks that his blow will fall on the weak points of those stakes that will not touch Linda's oblique lines. It is necessary to understand their trajectories. He sees everything in another dimension with lines. He is in the center of everything. He predicts actions. If you combine his sword skill, in which he forms an angle of view and, like a bird, quickly scans the entire area. As he thought, his head would start to hurt from such a quantity of information, but he would be able to organize the received data and the ability to predict the trajectory of the enemy's line of attack within a radius of hundreds of kilometers. He keeps watching and following, thinking that it's good that the lines don't touch Daria. Thanks to Eugene's power, he can see the location of the enemies. He touches his foot to the imaginary ground, uses heavenly ash, after which the earthlings begin to attack. He sharply and quickly cuts them all off. He looks up and sees the dragon approaching. Their eyes meet. It's disgusting. The Earth Dragon Mule has trouble seeing Nain. Humans are small enough compared to him that it is difficult for the dragon to catch them. In addition to the 5 senses, the dragon, which occupies the top of the hierarchy among monsters, also has a 6th. It is able to sense magical power, but it is difficult for it to see it. He notices Nain and thinks that he is small in stature if he dresses in black clothes at night and hides in the darkness. Without magic, it is dangerous for him to approach him. For the dragon, he practically does not exist. In his eyes, he is a small bug, even more insignificant. He is a microbe in the opinion of the dragon. Nain kills the stakes and goes forward. The dragon does not understand how this bacteria can approach him so confidently, defending itself from all the stakes in its path. The dragon sees 3 remaining beasts. Their magical power is quite great, but only one of them is comparable to him in strength. He speaks about Darius. He analyzes that their weapons and armor are dragon slayers. They were given to people by the gods in the name of their destruction. The wounds received in the decisive battle hundreds of years ago still make themselves felt. The dragon lets out a thunderous roar to get rid of those who inflicted them. In 100 years of peace, the magical power of the forest restored 1/10 of its former power. It did everything to return its former power, but people attacked first. The impudent little people were not satisfied with 2 battles, as the dragon believes, but this time he confidently says that he will wipe them all into dust. He thinks that neither the dragon slayer nor the magical power, nothing will break him. They do not understand what insignificant monsters they brought here. While he was thinking, he notices a silhouette below and is surprised by what he sees. Nain confidently walks towards him. The dragon wonders if it's really him, if his dragon senses have failed him, if he's really going to let him just kill him. Nain jumps higher and higher, dodging the stakes. Nain aims at the dragon using his chilling swordsmanship. The dragon first calls him a vile bug, and then sees him and wonders with fear if he is a divine being. The dragon calls Nain a vile dragon slayer. A vile little bug. He wonders if the earthen stakes are not scary to him. He gets angry and shouts that he will then wipe him off the face of the earth, after which he shoots black bullets from himself. Nain speculates that the attack trajectories are from the sky, but they are constantly changing, and the attack area is large. Nain's heart is pounding wildly. He puts his hand on his chest and thinks about what he should tell everyone. He convinces himself to calm down and remember, after all, everything is fine. They are Scarlet Falcons. If we return for a second to the conversation that took place immediately after the dragon appeared, then Inu came out and meowed loudly. She gave him advice. Maybe he should show them the way. Nain is surprised and asks why him. Inu explains that everything has changed. Enemies, allies. He can't be dealt with alone, and no one is going to make him an errand boy like before. Nain understands and remembers A-list with the others. He wants to somehow object, but Inu says that if he does not show his power, then everyone will die here. She explains that if he shows himself, it will not mean that he has a high opinion of himself. They are not in the conditions where they can retreat. She speaks slyly and playfully about that conversation in the camp. He heard everything. She assures him that they will definitely understand, so let him believe in them. Nain smiles at these words, and then tells Inu that it is rare, of course, to hear such things from her. Inu twitches and indignantly, with a red face, tells them to shut up, and in general, they need to hurry. Nain replies that he understands her. He is just a little nervous. He asks her what she is suggesting. She sarcastically asks if maybe she should sit and worry instead of fighting the dragon. Nain exhales, "I would advise you to watch your language so as not to run into the dragon's wrath." He uses the Heavenly Ash skill of the 7-star swordsmanship style. He sees all the attacks that can be. He cancels the Sky Ash skill because he saw the attack trajectory aimed at Linda. He squeezes his hand and thinks that, June like before June na Bahafeng, he needs to call her using these gloves. He immediately tells Linda to look down. She doesn't understand and asks where. The ground collapses under him. Nain sighs, thinking that it seems like she dodged. Everything is fine. He looks up and asks in surprise what this shining bird is. Sha. He thinks it is beautiful. She sees Linda aiming at him and gets scared. However, he thinks to himself that he met Linda's gaze. He mentally asks for forgiveness for expressing himself so impolitely. Inu sighs. Nain moves on with the thought that he cannot stop. He jumps from place to place. He is in the process of thinking that Eugene's life may be in danger. He cannot use flight magic, so he must run as fast as he can. He approaches the trap with Eugene and sees him through the boulders. He sees the line of attack and realizes that they want to surround Eugene. He tries to call, but it doesn't work. He understands that things are bad. Did he really turn off the microphone? She sees Linda's lines of attack, stops abruptly, and thinks this will do. He deflects Linda's bullet and heads for the mountain with Eugene. The bullet hits Eugene. Nain is glad that it worked and that Linda understood his gesture. He looks at his hand and thinks that everything is working now, after which he quickly moves again. At some point, he turns around and wonders if Daria has already caught up with him. He sees her and thinks how quickly and coolly she dealt with the orcs and evil trolls so easily. Here, he sees that numerous lines of attacks are flying straight towards her. He understands that things are bad, especially since the color is dark, so it is close. He immediately protects her and destroys these stakes. Daria remains in surprise with her mouth open. Nain thinks that even if he hadn't done it, he's sure Daria would have been able to deflect the blow. He makes excuses that both Linda and Eugene would have avoided the attack, but he did it anyway. They weren't a team with Eyeless. He was happy to hear Linda and Eugene thank him. He remembers their surprised faces in gratitude. He reflects that these three are a really good team. They listen to each other, and after calmly discussing everything, they can come to a compromise. He remembers how Daria said that she loved him, and this caring, "I love you," he will never forget. He wonders if he will be part of this team. He really doesn't know, and has doubts. He says out loud that at least this is the test he wants to go through with them. He clutches his sword. He remembers Daria's words to show her his strength. Only because she said it, only because she wanted to show them his power. He shouts to everyone that this is all his skill in wielding a sword. They were then indignant. Is there even a limit to this skill? Inu meows and tells Nain that it was funny. Linda smiles awkwardly and thanks him anyway, telling him what they should do without him. Eugene also says that it doesn't matter whether it's swordsmanship or not. He also thanks him. Daria proudly asks them, folding her hands in front of her, how they like her. Nain, because it's true that he was cool. Linda tells her that he doesn't actually belong to her. Eugene joins her. Inu meows angrily. And Daria is offended. Why are they doing this to her? Nain smiles broadly. Nain shouts to the commander that there will be a strike from the right above. But it is not like it happened earlier, he assures that there are many of them, and that it looks like rain. Eugene shouts that it's a stone rain. Boulders will fall from the sky, so they must be vigilant. A rain of stones flies towards them, straight from the dragon. Mule Linda aims her weapon at him from above. Stones are thrown at her. She says that she thinks they can handle it. She deflects the blows with stones, flying on a sacred bird. She screams for it to come again and continues to destroy the stones. All this is watched by Nain. Nain begins to think that Linda is simply amazing because she destroys the boulders one by one. Nain goes somewhere and doesn't notice how a huge rock is flying at him. Then Daria appears and cuts the rock in half with her sword, surprising Nain even more. The pieces of the rock just fall near him. He joyfully shouts Daria her name. Daria responds to his call in the same way. Suddenly Nain sees several lines of attack. He shouts to Daria that in 10 steps from below something strong will appear, as many as 8 of them. Daria listens to him attentively, then answers him that she understood him. Suddenly, as was said, earthen stakes come out from below and aim straight at Daria. She easily dodges each one and moves on freely. Nain looks at her with admiration, so much so that he blushes. He shouts to her that it was cool. Daria answers him that he is the coolest here, and no one will argue with that. Inu meows discontentedly. Suddenly, Daria and Nain hear Eugene's voice, saying that he has cornered him, so they must come to him. Eugene uses his magic and shouts at the dragon that he is finished and should surrender. They move, but feel some kind of interference. Daria calls Nain to follow her. Nain obeys her. They fly quickly straight towards the dragon. The dragon notices them and glares at them with a furious and greedy look. He thinks they are annoying, disgusting people. Daria and Nain approach him. The dragon promises that he will wipe them off the face of the earth. Several earthen stakes come out from below and touch them. Daria wonders why there are so many of them. She sees that they have also touched Nain and tries to save him, but in an instant, a huge stake pierces Daria's body, and she remains in place in horror. Nain looks at this with great horror in his eyes and screams in shock to Daria, but the next moment a stake pierces Nain's chest and he himself, making him cough and groan in pain. Both are hanging right in front of the dragon on stakes, while the monster looks at them triumphantly. Both have their heads down, but the next second their bodies evaporate right in front of him. The dragon looks on in confusion. Eugene watches everything and hovers in the air. Several copies of Daria and Nain fly towards the dragon. The monster finally realizes that this is an illusion. All the copies fly to attack the dragon. The monster looks at them doubtfully at first, then releases earthen stakes at each one, after which the clones just blur and evaporate in front of him. He starts to get angry, not understanding where they really are. While he was distracted by the clones, the blow lands right on his side. Eugene and Linda are standing on both sides. He calls them little bugs and shouts how they irritate him. He begins to growl so that his roar reaches everyone, and after contact with sound waves, the clones disappear. Eugene looks and thinks that things are bad. Linda reflects his blow. At this time, the real Daria and Nain run towards the monster. Nain simply cuts with his sword. Daria flies straight ahead so that his roar does not touch her at all. Finally, Daria lands. She immediately shouts at Nain to jump. He obeys, jumps on Daria's sword, and Daria swings it with force so that Nain flies high. All hope is on Nain. Daria smiles and tells Nain that she trusts him with the first blow. Nain gets closer and closer to the dragon. Before the operation began, a briefing was held. Eugene says that this is information that they managed to learn from the last battle. Nain replies that he understood everything. Daria turns to Nain and says that she needs his help. After her blow, before she gets to the target, he must clear the way. This is the duty entrusted to Nain. Nain looks at him in surprise and asks what other blow. Daria begins to explain once again, there as Eugene said. She says that in the first battle, they fought without setting the forest on fire, but they soon had to retreat due to the fact that the monsters and the dragon were constantly regenerating. Nain immediately remembers that battle in the Elven Forest. He thinks that it's good that the company consisted only of people. She says that in the second battle, victory was close, but her attack was blocked at the very end. She is so upset. Returning to the present, Nain flies towards the monster using the 7-star sword style, namely Heavenly Ash. He sees the lines of attack, namely a stone wall in front of him. Daria also understood this. The dragon closes itself in a huge barrier. Nain realizes that there are lines of attack on all sides. Even from above, the Earth Dragon has surrounded them. He realizes that it looks like a fortress. He reasons out loud that in the last battle Daria released all her power, so she said. But it was not enough to kill and they had to retreat. Daria tells him that they need another way to break through the wall. So they decided to improve their weapons and add more members to the team. Nain thinks that only none of this was done in time, in which case his job is easy. He comes to the decision that only sand should be left from this wall. Neither the excellent sniper in the person of Linda, nor the thermonuclear explosions of Eugene could cope with the wall. Nain realizes that he can handle it with his sword magic. There are 2 seconds left before the stone wall appears. He flies straight towards the monster, coming out of the trance where attacks are visible. The dragon in place only watches his movement. At that moment, the Earth Dragon caught Nain for the first time. But under Eugene's enhancement, Nain did not realize that he could finally see him, but he realized that he was accepted. He flies next to the dragon and sees that magic has enveloped the dragon's limbs. He thinks that energy has enveloped both legs, and he sees this for the first time in all the battles. The monster's teeth are gritting with anger. He asks if such a small creature is really going to go against him. Nain declares that his pride will destroy him. Then, as he predicted, a huge stone wall appears, which slowly closes them off completely. Nain does not give up, and with a sharp swing of the sword, cuts the wall. He cuts off the upper dome of the barrier with this sword magic, leaving the dragon without protection. The monster looks at him in horror. The stone wall is not a monolith, on the contrary, it was a technique for strengthening the wall. The magic that forms the wall intricately intertwines all the components. Wherever a crack appears, the magic will immediately fill it. Long ago, during the Battle of the Gods, a holy maiden blessed by Bahamut attacked the continent, and Bahamut, having destroyed everything around, penetrated deep underground, where he created the most powerful barrier in the world. Even the most powerful red-haired mage of their time couldn't destroy it. It's impossible. This is something beyond the possible. No one and nothing can destroy this barrier. The barrier breaks, everything falls. The monster looks in horror and wonders if Nain is really wild. The wall breaks into pieces and falls apart. The dragon does not understand whether magic no longer supports the barrier. Why is this happening? Daria steps forward and shouts to Nain that this is excellent, and the dragon realizes that his end has come. Daria strikes the dragon with a divine blow. Daria's winning attack. The dragon is suppressed by her. Daria deals him the winning blow. The dragon resists and says that they will never be able to defeat him. However, he roars loudly from the impact. Everything explodes. Eugene and Linda defend themselves. One Nina is thrown back by magic, but Linda catches him with her bird. They fly over a stream of energy. Nain thinks it's so beautiful. He sees Daria and freezes, mentally repeating her name over and over again. Linda turns to him and happily says that they did it, and then calls him a good boy. Nain blushes, looks away, and awkwardly says that he thanks her. Lida asks for forgiveness because she said that he should not have fought with them. She admits that she was wrong. Nain remembers her words. He tells her that it's okay, you'd think he was useless. Since he's an F rank, those who fight in the vanguard have to give it their all. Linda says that he knows a lot. They fly on, Linda adding that she is glad that everything turned out this way. She also says with recognition that his abilities are incredible. Linda thinks about the look on Daria's face and says that she was right about him after all. She says that she often makes decisions in a reckless fit of emotion. So she thought, but each of her decisions was correct, so it seemed to her. Nain tells her that they know each other so well, Linda says with a smile, that they have been friends since childhood. She then adds that, of course, it wasn't without its blunders, it was necessary to constantly follow him. She asks him not to forget about it. Nain smiles at her, then agrees, which makes Linda laugh. Then she sternly says that they should stop being affectionate. She is making a lot of noise, so they need to fly to Daria. They arrive and see Darius standing confidently in the midst of all the chaos, with his sword over his shoulder. She looks back and sees a bird flying towards them. With them, she starts to swear at them from afar. Nain asks Linda why she is screaming. Linda says that it is something not particularly important. Maybe she is asking to move away or something. Nain asks if this is because the magical glow has some effect. Linda awkwardly suggests flying away a little. Asks her if she really thinks they should fly away on that glowing bird. She smiles and says something like that. Linda says that if they don't take her, her magic will run out and she won't even be able to fly. Nain says that if they get closer, everything will be fine. They fly over the surface where various monsters lie, after which crystals remained. There was an incredible battle here. Nain ponders the ES rank adventurers, who he assumes must have fought hundreds of similar battles. He once thought that the evil trolls were the most terrible of all the monsters in the dungeon. Only a few hours have passed since then. But not even a day has passed since he met these guys. He remembers how he met them, and then suddenly thinks with apprehension they will be able to return from this dungeon. He wonders if he can dissolve in this place. How can he return? Maybe there is something like an omnibus. He opens his eyes sharply and looks around. He sees that all the earthen stakes he destroyed have turned into dirt, but he hopes that they will someday become grass and flowers. Suddenly he notices some whole stakes that are not damaged. He does not understand why they are still there. He realizes with horror that Inu is getting up. Together they shout to Daria that danger is behind them. Then a stake comes out of the ground and hits her BRK. She silently loses her balance, does not have time to react in any way. Linda calls her name with concern. She moves away from the stakes, and they continue to come out. Daria falls, and then immediately gets up, after which she giggles. She says with a grin that she heard Nain's voice, even without the connection. Is this really a new stage of friendship? Linda gets angry and asks her to stop talking nonsense. She asks if she is okay. Daria answers with a smile that she is fine. She says that her cloak was sacrificed, and she loved it so much. Nain notices again and shouts that there is a huge attack coming from below. Daria looks down with tension. Suddenly a huge dragon head emerges from the ground. She manages to jump back. Eugene and everyone else look at the dragon in horror. They wonder if the past one was not real. Someone shouts that perhaps at the moment of impact, he only left his shell, and he himself went underground, avoided the attack, and now he has returned back. Daria understands with a smile that, however, he is no longer so strong. And the proof of this is his magical power and the size of his body. He has become incredibly small. Is this really not the end yet? Daria is barely holding on and thinking that, in a little while, the same thing will happen to her. The monster appears right in front of Daria. She smiles with difficulty. Blood flows from her mouth. She is injured. She has a hole the size of a fist instead of a stomach. However, as expected from their leader, he has excellent regeneration magic. Now she can easily do without painkillers, but still she cannot move quickly. Her nerves are paralyzed. She doesn't want empty talk. It's not the time or the place. They're all in danger now. Suddenly, the monster's eyes roll back and other pupils are visible from the sockets. Everyone is horrified by what they see. A certain wall appears around him. Nain assumes that it is a stone wall again. The walls appear layer by layer, and at a small distance, Daria understands that everything is bad. Stakes come out right in front of her. She moves away. In an instant, the monster releases a rain of stones. Linda and Nain on the bird understand that things are bad. Eugene looks and understands that the monster is furious. He reports to everyone that he has no control over his power. They must be vigilant. They must kill him. Stones fly towards them. Linda worries about Darius. They look at each other for a long time and are silent. Daria remembers her request that after such a blow she needs Nina's help. It was a mistake. They should have struck together. She looks sadly and thinks that there is no point in arguing anymore. She shouts to Eugene that they should retreat. Eugene picks up the crystal. Daria remembers that with this crystal only they can escape. Where the dragon's attack cannot reach, on the opposite side of the large continent, there is a city. Only 4 can move. This is the optimal number for the crystal, because most adventurers travel in groups of 4. She thinks about Nain, that his magic is similar to Eugene's movement. Magic, to teleport, you don't have to touch him. He is able to simultaneously move the squad members to the desired location. She understands that only they will move, but what kind of country is it? Do people live there? She has no idea. She needs to act. If the dragon attacks again, it will be bad. That's what Eugene would say in Daria's thoughts. She thinks that it is unlikely that this monster will stop at the destruction of one country. It will only be the beginning, and then the entire eastern side of the continent will be enslaved. She remembers her home, which will come under attack. If they stay here, there will be fewer victims. She's gritting her teeth, but it's impossible. The Scarlet Falcons are locked here. They don't have the strength to fly anymore. Even if Nain breaks this wall, they won't be able to deal a crushing blow. Eugene, Daria, and Linda all understand this. She says out loud that her stomach hurts. It's all because of the wound in her stomach. Before Hafisur Amine, when she was wounded, she cried all the time. She doesn't cry anymore. Until she was 15, Linda always calmed her down. She muses that breaking through numerous stone walls would be too much even for Nain. She clutches the weapon and thinks that she can't attack with full force, otherwise the wound will become bigger. She remembers something and thinks that Nain can. Here Nain again shouts at her to stand still, and then declares that he will destroy this wall. Daria looks at the confident Nain in surprise. Daria analyzes his voice, but that he doubts is not afraid, but doubts. He is being brave, but something torments him. She smiles at the thought that he is only 15 years old. She starts laughing out loud, and then even more loudly. Eugene wonders if she has really decided to stay. Linda asks Daria what she is doing. Daria thinks to herself that when she laughs, The muscles tense, strengthening her stomach. Blood gushes out of the wound again, she understands. But does it really bother her? She comes to the conclusion that at such moments she should be an example for the younger ones. But no matter what happens, you need to look trouble in the eye with a fearless smile. No matter how much pain it may cause, it decides that it will never cry. She screams at Nain to trust her with everything and that she will see it through to the end. She raises her weapon high and then takes a step. She thinks with a smile that she will have a hard time after this, maybe she will even die. Suddenly she feels something and freezes. Linda and Nain fly towards her. Eugene is also nearby. Daria thinks, did they really not escape? Did they really not use the crystal? She sees Nain from the side and then smiles, thinking that she has good friends, really. How cool it is to have friends who will never abandon her in trouble. She shouts at the dragon, calling him a ruin, that she is going to him, and having reappeared on this earth, overcome with resentment for past defeats, she and her friends will burn everything here to the ground. The battle continues. Daria attacked the monster, releasing the power of the sword. A large channel broke through the walls. She succeeded. Nain, Kun, and Linda flew on the back of a white bird. They flew through the holes in the walls that were left by Daria's blow. Suddenly, Nain turned around. He saw the hole in the wall begin to close. Ahead of them, the same thing was happening. They were only 8 meters away from the next wall. Linda thought that at least 1 more second was needed for the Nain-kun to be able to get closer to them. At this point, Nain rose to his feet and thanked Linda. He said that this would be enough. He jumped high into the air, holding his sword in his hands, to attack the large dragon. Nain used the 7-star style, faster than the wind. He looked straight into the dragon's eyes. Linda looked at the guy in amazement. She was surprised when he managed to do everything. Nain hung in the air above the huge stakes. The hero saw that they were above him too. He thought that it didn't matter how he attacked, because no matter where he approached from, he would be pierced through. Heavenly Ash. There was nowhere to retreat, but how to win, Nain also did not see. He hung in the air, surrounded by many lines like that. There were 76 of them. Until the 47th line he had to attack, and until the 76th he had to dodge. But that was all he could do. As long as Nain dodged, there would be no opportunity to attack. Mule's defense was perfect. If Nain tried to kill the dragon, he would die himself, and his blade would most likely miss its target. He thought his opponent was 1 step ahead. Nain thought that 1 attack was not enough for him. But he would not be able to get closer, and he would not be able to use Sakuchi again in his position either. Nain thought he had lost because his sword technique was not enough to get close to the dragon. His sword technique is Heavenly Ash. At that moment, he suddenly remembered the card with the man in the white carnival costume and hat. He believed that this card would work. It was a talisman that would help to save himself only once. Eugene handed Nain this card. It turned out that it had the Joker on it. Eugene said that the principle of substitution worked with the card. The talisman can be used to save yourself in case of danger. Nain decided that he would neither defend himself nor retreat. He shouted to Mule that his end had come. The spirits of the dungeon turned to him. They asked sarcastically if Nain was going to escape again. Nain said that he would not retreat a second time. He thought of his friends. He thought that these S-class adventurers trusted him, the useless one as he called himself, to make the final attack, was determined not to betray his friend's trust and to kill the dragon. He stood behind the dragon, holding a sword in his hands. He was preparing to attack. It was a complex attack, including several techniques at once. A 7-star style. Using the Moonflower and Furious Ash techniques, he attacked the dragon. The dragon shouted at Nain, "What the hell is he?" He cut the dragon down with his sword. Nain killed the dragon. He mentally addressed his father and proudly said that he had done it. With the help of his friends, he had made his dream come true. Muhel was killed. Linda, Eugene, and Daria watched as Nain walked away, leaving the dragon behind. Daria smiled. On the shoulder of Nain, Kun sat a small kitten. The boy looked at the destroyed wall and the sun rising from behind the mountains. He proudly told his father, who was not next to him, that he could. Daria lay on the ground, exhausted from the fight and severe injury. Eugene and Linda sat next to her. Eugene put his hand to Daria's wound. He told her that she had lied when she said she was not wounded. He added that he would not praise her for such a thing. Fortunately, according to Eugene, The girl's life was not in danger. Daria turned her head, looking at Linda. Linda screamed, cursing at Daria. She began asking the wounded girl why she was lying. She repeated this question over and over again. Linda cried and said that Daria could have died. Daria looked at her friend with pity. She pressed her lips together and looked away. Daria replied that she understood everything and told Linda to calm down. She promised that she would apologize again. At that moment, Nain was approaching the friends. He shouted Daria's name, running up to her. A small kitten was running behind him. Nain leaned towards Daria with concern. He began to ask if she was okay. Daria smiled in response. She then said she was okay, reaching out to the boy. She placed her hand on his cheek, closing her eyes. Daria said she thought about the boy for the first time, noticing how cool he was. Nain was very surprised by her words. Eugene stood behind, smiling sweetly, and Linda opened her mouth indignantly. Daria closed her eyes from fatigue, but continued to smile calmly. After that, support arrived for them. The guys were taken to the nearest city. A few days later, Daria had fully recovered. All the boys were sitting at a table full of delicious hot dishes. Daria embarrassedly answered Eugene and Linda that she had not said anything like that, which made them laugh, mimicking her. Nain was still trying to understand the meaning of that phrase that Daria said after the fight. He stood in the kitchen and cut vegetables, confusedly trying to understand what it was. Behind him, the cook was yelling at the girl because nothing was ready yet. The girl approached Nain, saying that he could have avoided cutting the vegetables. The boy replied that it was a habit. The kitten Inu snorted, saying that it was not interesting. There are many people at the market in the city. At the same time, a loud argument was heard in the dungeon of the city of Bieber. It was a young gentleman in armor with blonde hair named Ares. He was yelling at the other guy, asking why he couldn't even do that. Ares called his opponent an A-class adventurer. In response, the other guy said that his opponent was the troll himself. He added that he was not going to die. Even an S-class would not be able to handle him. The guy in armor was angry at his words. He told the other one not to mock him, and that the incompetent one could do what he wanted. Nain's former team had failed. Ares was angry when he found out that they had not defeated the troll. He was outraged that according to his team, the troll he defeated was alive. Another guy, sitting at the table and in a suit, answered him that such a message had come from other adventurers. They said that the boss there was alive. Usually, a dungeon without a boss has its difficulty level reduced. Mr. Aris said that this happens because control over the monsters is lost. That is why newbies are sent to such dungeons at such times. The man in the suit who had been talking to the adventurers objected to the guy in armor, saying that this time things were different. During the battle, a boss suddenly appeared. There are cases when one of the monsters becomes a boss, but this takes quite a long time. The young knight became angry at his interlocutor's words and slammed his fist on the table with all his might. He shouted at him not to make him laugh and said that he had defeated that troll. The interlocutor calmly asked him to show the magic stone. The gentleman annoyedly took out a small bag and handed it to another. The guy in the suit picked up the binoculars and looked closely at the stone he was holding. Then he looked away and coldly replied that it was just a troll. Aris let out a surprised cry. One of the adventurers he had spoken to earlier sneered at him. The armored guy continued, saying that he believed it was a fake that the troll had prepared in advance. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth in anger. The guy in the suit told him that there were no casualties yet and nothing serious had happened. He said that a 3-day ban on activity and a small fine would suffice. Ares put the money on the table and headed for the door. The two girls who were his assistants called out to him. The girls ran out of the room, following their master and asking him to wait. The girl with long, dark hair turned to her friend with short, light hair, indignant that the people who had it did not even know their owner. The other answered her that it was not worth paying attention to. Aris thought on the way to the gate that they themselves would leave such a guild and abandon it in the near future. He stopped abruptly so that the fair-haired girl crashed into him. She asked the gentleman's name questioningly. Aris ordered the girl to announce to the guild about the new recruitment to the team. Both girls were surprised. Aris said that after 3 days he would go hunting. The girls tried to object to him, but the master looked at them sternly, confirming his words. The girls ran in the other direction to carry out the order of their master. At this time, An angry Iris was in the lodging establishment. He broke a bottle of red wine. Taking another bottle in his hands, he said that this time he would definitely defeat the troll. He drank the wine and thought that he would not let anyone think about him, that he could not even distinguish magic stones. Eris's hatred was boiling over. He thought of Nina, saying that he promised he wouldn't get away with it. There was a battle going on in the cave. The trolls surrounded the dark-haired guy with the sword, but he deftly cut them down with his blow. Behind him stood Mr. Eris and two girls. The blonde-haired girl told Eris that this A-class adventurer he sent did a good job. The long-haired girl indignantly asked why they always had to correct the guild's mistakes. Mr. Eris said, looking arrogantly at the adventurer, that the vanguard must destroy all enemies. The adventurer stood after the fight, throwing his sword over his shoulder. He wondered to himself if Eris and his team were going to work at all. The adventurer thought that it was a C-class dungeon, so there were magic stones scattered all over the place. Although he didn't want a bunch of inexperienced newbies getting in the way. But he couldn't handle the trolls alone, he would need help. He wasn't sure, but he thought that Class C would at least be able to cover him. At that moment, a strong blow thundered from behind, and the adventurer jumped forward, hiding from the fragments of stones and tongues of flame. He looked around in annoyance, asking what kind of stupidity was going on. He looked at Eris and his assistants, and thought that their magical skills were too low. He decided that they were aiming at his back. Besides, the warrior continued, they have no idea where they are. They could be separated so easily. At that moment, a huge troll appeared in front of the group. The adventurer looked at the monster and thought with regret that he had not done any damage to it. Time, strength, and magic were leaking out before his eyes. Here, Eris overtook the dark-haired guy, shouting that he would do it. He ran up to the troll, pointing his sword at him. The adventurer silently called him a fool. He thought that this guy seemed out of his element. He looked more like E. Eris froze in front of the huge troll. Fear was visible in his eyes. The adventurer ran to help and struck the troll with his sword. He thought it would be better to fight the monster alone. At that moment, Eris was sitting on the ground behind the warrior, watching what was happening in horror. The adventurer thought that it had been a long time since he had fought alone. He ran to the attack and shouted to Eris that if he couldn't handle it, he should just run away. It wasn't much of a reward anyway to risk his life. Eris hissed in response. He shouted at the warrior to dodge the club. He watched the fight from the side indignantly and shouted at the dark-haired guy to use magic. The adventurer thought he heard some strange advice. Eris shouted to him that the troll was attacking again. The warrior thought that he should ignore this attack of the monster. He had already forgotten what it was like to fight a troll one-on-one. He jumped high into the air, hitting the troll with his sword so hard that he almost fell. The monster landed on the ground and stone fragments flew in all directions. The troll turned furiously towards the hero. This battle was difficult. The adventurer thought he would even call it very difficult. It seemed that his blow had hit the huge troll quite well. The only thing left to do was to methodically finish off the monster, blow after blow until he died. Eris sat aside from the fight and tried to control what was happening. He shouted at the adventurer to stop, saying that he would kill the monster himself and that the warrior was only getting in the way. Then he called him names, saying that he was useless. Eris took the sword in his hands and also approached the dark-haired guy. The adventurer shouted at him, saying that the master had been nagging him all day. He said that his screaming would not help and added that Eris should not get in his way. The young master was outraged by the warrior's words. He began to scold him, asking why he did not follow his orders. He said that an adventurer must follow the orders of his leader. At that moment, the troll came up from behind and hit the ground with his club with all his might right next to Eris. The young man got scared and fell to the ground. The sword flew out of his hands because of the blow. He began to look for his sword. The adventurer started yelling at Eris, calling him an idiot. He said that he couldn't win alone, and that such an incompetent leader couldn't do it. And then it all started. A serious conflict broke out. The adventurer said that Eris was probably joking because even an S-class couldn't defeat this monster. The warrior stopped short. He realized that he should not continue this conflict. He was exhausted, and his concentration had waned. He turned to Eris, saying that they were retreating, and asked to give him the transfer crystal. A furious Iris was outraged that they had to retreat. He started shouting about what other transfer crystals the adventurer was talking about and what he was talking about. The warrior replied that he had had enough. He took out the crystal that was in his pocket. Then he turned to the leader and said that if he did not want to die, he needed to run away from here. Ares became angry and began to shout, not understanding what the adventurer had just done. The assistants turned to their master, frightened by the approach of the troll. Lord Ares ordered them to leave here and said that they had no other choice. The adventurer used the crystal. They climbed out of the cave, trying to catch their breath. The adventurer was already sitting on a bench and drinking water. He turned to Iris's team and said that he saw that they were all right. Iris immediately pounced on him, asking why he had run away. He began to repeat this question, shouting at the warrior. The adventurer replied that this was a breach of contract, and he added that for this he was going to report to the guild on Ares. It was through her that he received the request to join the team. He said that of course, he had heard that it could be a scam, and getting up from the bench, began to leave. Iris shouted, asking what scam meant. The adventurer replied that the conditions for joining were too strange. He was told that he was replacing an F-class player, so he agreed, and came here to repel attacks and create gaps in the enemy's ranks. There was no mention of danger. Ares shouted at the warrior again, calling him an idiot, and saying that anyone who could go against a troll had to be at least S-class. The adventurer told him to stop. He said he had had enough of this chatter. The warrior left, grumbling that he wouldn't get a quarter for something like that. Ares tried to stop him. The adventurer said that they didn't pay people enough to get involved in things like that. He explained that one person attacks. He repels attacks with a club, looks for vulnerable spots, and gets some pennies for it, and that Ares, with such requests, should look for a meta-human until he dies from his stupidity. Iris suddenly thought that the meta-human had been here not so long ago, but that guy, he remembered about Nain. Ares shouted for the adventurer to wait, but the warrior did not even turn around at his words and went on. The blonde girl called Mr. Ares. She suggested trying to complete this task at another time. The dark-haired assistant added that for now the master could return to his estate. Ares got angry and looked sternly at the girls. He asked if they were suggesting that he give up his adventurer idea. The dark-haired girl objected to him in fear. Iris coldly refused their offer. He sat in a dark room, surrounded by bottles of wine. He thought that this had happened to him 3 times already. Iris scolded the adventurers. He said that these professionals are really just liars who can't control their temper. Soon the guild stopped sending assistants. They replied that they had already fulfilled their duty. Aaron and his assistants had no choice but to go down into the dungeon together. They spent days there, but they were not running from bosses, but from monsters. Regular money was gradually running out. Iris tried to submit requests for help, but all was in vain. The young master was very angry. Class C was bought with money, but in reality, it was not even E, a newbie who knew nothing. Everyone around was saying about Iris that his arrogance prevented him from seeing the real state of affairs. Therefore, he is an adventurer only because he bought this status for himself, a reality that no one should know. Aris thought that it shouldn't be like this. When he became the head of the clan, he did it only so that other nobles wouldn't take advantage of him. And he became an adventurer only to gain a reputation as a fighting man. The young gentleman thought about all this and told himself that he could not end it all like this and become a nobody again. Around this time, some rumors reached Iris. He remembered about Nain. Everyone said that he was the bravest. Daria extended her hand to Nain, inviting him to come with her. Nain was very upset because he was bathed in the rays of gratitude. Coming out to the people after Daria, Nain was very worried. He asked if he could be present at this ceremony. Daria asked him what he was talking about. She answered that Nain was the main star of the ceremony. Linda was flying on a large white bird, with Eugene and Nain walking next to her. The people around were greeting them joyfully. All the heroes smiled and waved their hands in greeting to the crowd of townspeople. Daria lay on the bird on which Linda was flying. Nain turned to Linda and suggested that she replace her. He said that the falcon had used up a lot of energy. Linda smirks and asks Nain why his face is so red. He remembers Daria's words and replies that it's nothing like that. Linda laughs at him and asks him not to worry. She promises that she will take care of everything. Linda shows with all her appearance that she will not give her to anyone. Nain understands this and lets her go. Later in the building, he walks around and is amazed by the size of the room. How spacious it is. Comment, what a big bathtub. At the end of the day, he flops down on his bed and says that he even has a separate room. He thinks it's great. He looks at the ceiling and thinks that so much has happened today. He is tired, but for some reason he cannot fall asleep. His head is clearer than ever. He remembers the jubilant faces and thinks that he defended the people as he should, and defended his country as he should. Perhaps he could fulfill his father's dying wish. He raises his hand and thinks, maybe not. He believes that killing one of them cannot be called fulfilling his last wish. Enyu comes to him and meows. She licks his face. Naina smiles and asks him to stop. She pulls the pillow from under Nain's head and leaves. Nain awkwardly stays and says that it is his. Enyu meows, saying that she warms well and thanks him. Nain wonders if she is really cold. Then he relents and says let her sleep next to him. He says he wonders if he should kill that dragon. Enyu replies that he can do whatever he wants with his life, it's just his life. He falls asleep. The next day, the guild representatives and adventurers began work on collecting magic stones. Since this is an official request, the magic stones found were handed over to the Red Hawk, but there are those who can hide them. Linda says that Nakalum says, unfortunately, that's true, they can take it instead of a reward. Daria says not to let them get away with it. Eugene drinks tea and says indifferently that for those who take them, they will not become a reward. He informed all the guilds that the magic stones from the Mule Forest had a special mark. Anyone who stole and sold them would be severely punished once they were found. He says they pay their collectors well, so he thinks there is no chance of theft. Something bad happens and the moral principles of the guild suffer, then it will be difficult to help. Nain eats some bread and thinks that Eugene looks like a king. Enyu sits next to him. The butler whispers something to Nain. After a short conversation, he leaves, and Eugene smiles. He immediately says that they received an invitation from King's Landing. He asks what they will say about this. Nain is surprised, Daria is disappointed and asks if this is really happening again, and Linda with a smirk says that she doesn't even know. Eugene says they are honored, Zaikana, Ladas, their presence could be a source of hope for those people. Linda says he seems to like it, so don't say that. Eugene says there's nothing keeping them here, so he doesn't care. Linda says they might as well travel. Eugene drinks tea again and replies that this is true. They are not yet tied to one country. They call themselves free adventurers. Nain eats with gusto and then says joyfully, Fora, that means the three of them are going to the capital. He thinks that this is great. All three of them look at him with displeasure, and an awkward silence ensues. They have many questions and misunderstandings. Eugene is busy with paperwork and says that's all he can say about yesterday. He was one move short, and his strategic planning is not up to par either. Tired Linda says that there is nothing to be done. Their opponent was a dragon, and this is a forest. The speed of the attack was so fast that they barely had time to prepare. Daria says that perhaps the attack plan was flawed, but the mistakes affect them too. And she doesn't think the leader is the only one who should be thinking about it. Nain drinks tea silently, Enyu meows. Eugene says that he asked for A-class adventurers. It's good that they weren't given them. He didn't think Muel had the ability of a stone wall. Linda agrees with him and remembers. Daria says that this is a creature beyond human understanding. She agrees with the leader. Even if A-class adventurers appeared, it wouldn't be enough. They couldn't cope with his puppets for a long time. Nain listens to them and asks if this is really so. Eugene says that it is, and that they are very lucky. Linda says that it is true. Daria agrees. Nain calmly drinks tea and thinks that they are so strong. How can they just be so lucky? All three look at Nain with hope and say that he is the key to their luck. Nain, shocked, asks what they are saying. Enyu meows proudly. Eugene says that their MVP is definitely him. He thanks him. Linda agrees and says that it is without a doubt. Daria is there too. Eugene says that usually the reward is divided equally between the four of them, but this time they have established a special prize for him. The surprised Nain is shown a piece of paper and told that this is how much he will receive for this raid. He sees the numbers and thinks in horror that this will be enough for him for the rest of his life. He says that there must be some kind of mistake here. Eugene asks with a grin if this is too little. He awkwardly replies that it is too much. Eugene says that he should accept them, they are rightfully his. Nain thinks that is not true. and that together they defeated him. Eugene says he will continue. Nain begins to tense up. Then Linda raises her hand and sternly calls him by name. She says that he became an adventurer to fulfill his father's dying wish to kill a dragon. Nain confirms this. Linda smiles and says that it turns out he did it. She congratulates him and says that it means he doesn't have to be an adventurer anymore. Nain starts to think. He is told that he has tried to kill a dragon before, but his previous team was so-so. He can't use magic, so he honed his swordsmanship, worked harder and longer than anyone else, and was finally rewarded. Linda says they paid him enough to last him a lifetime, plus he fulfilled his father's dying wish. Daria tells Linda to stop. Linda doesn't listen and says that she dares to ask what the point is for him to be an adventurer now. Linda asks Nain directly what the point of him being an adventurer is now. It is a fateful question. Daria tells Linda that, despite the fact that they were all on the verge of death in this fight, she is too hard on him. Linda asks Daria to be quiet. She says sternly that she is asking Mr. Nain now. If he just wants to take part in further raids, this may not be what he really wants, even though the Redhawks have no orders right now. She says that they are now the strongest team on the continent, and they have only one goal. While they are adventurers, they are faster than anyone else, going further than anyone else, into the most dangerous places they can. Linda says that they must go there no matter what. She asks Nain, he knows this. He stands awkwardly in front of her. This continent is still full of dangerous places, evil dragons that threaten all living things. The Redhawks are S-class adventurers, as they have already destroyed 6 dragons. The responsibility placed on them is enormous. Linda thinks that they accept her with honor and feel proud of it. But Nain is a different matter, because she can still turn back. Eugene looks on and thinks that he should have said it, but Linda said she would take care of it. She has taken on the role of the villain, and he is sure that Mr. Nain guesses it. Nain thinks about it. He believes that Linda's right. Mule was a difficult opponent. His fencing skills were not enough. He had never fought a monster one-on-one before. If it weren't for the talisman, he remembers how he was almost impaled on a stake. He is shaking, he says with a trembling voice, that it was a terrible fight, he was dead. He repeats this several times. Here Daria holds his hands and asks if he is okay. He starts to blush, calms down, and answers that he is okay. Daria says that Linda was right. It was she who made him join their team. She asks him for forgiveness. Nain silently asks her not to apologize. Daria says that it is his life, and he can do with it whatever he wants. Nain thinks, doesn't know why it sounds so stupid now. Daria says again that Neskapin, however, they are a team, so they need to reach the top. Nain is surprised again. He lowers his eyes and thinks again about how he fought the dragon in an unprecedented environment without magic. He realizes that he could have died at any moment. His swordsmanship was not enough to get him. He clenches his fist and thinks that if it wasn't just a matter of skill, if he was with these people, he could go anywhere. He states that he wants more adventures, wants to become a true adventurer, and look at the starry sky and more. Linda and Eugene smile, and Daria is completely happy. Nain takes her hands and tells her that he wants to go with him beyond the stars. Daria completely floats away from these words and blushes. An awkward silence ensues. They continue to stand in front of each other. Eugene and Linda smile awkwardly, but think to themselves, what is he saying? Has he really forgotten that they are here too? Linda tells Daria that she is shaking a lot. What should they do? Did she take it literally? Inu looks at them and snorts, "Eee," saying how boring it is here. They drink tea and talk. Daria is glad he stayed. She tells Nain that he is so strong, but why wasn't he on the team when they found him? She herself answers that it is probably because with such mastery of the sword, he could have handled it alone. Nain replies that he couldn't join anywhere. Daria asks why. Linda says that newbies have to be on the team for 3 months to start getting money from orders. They are exempt from this, since they graduated from the academy. Nain says that other than that, he has no magic, which is why he couldn't interact normally with others in the guild. He was told that, unfortunately, there was no suitable team for him. Nain wondered if he would really have to return to the village. Eugene says that according to the guild's criteria, he is an F-class adventurer, a newbie. He didn't know he had outstanding talent until he saw it with his own eyes, so it's no surprise. Linda laughs and says that even if he said that he was a swordsman, they would hardly believe him. Daria says that Alice and his minions saw him wield a sword and invited him to join the team, then he thought everything would be fine. She angrily slams her fist on the table and says that even without proper pay, food and sleep, they forced him to work hard. She swears at them furiously. She exudes aggression. Nain, awkwardly and in panic, says that it is his fault that he allowed himself to be deceived. Linda says that this is not true, because the guild should have explained the rules to him from the very beginning, for example, the minimum percentage of reward. Since the guild officials failed to fulfill their duty, Alice took advantage of this. Eugene says that he took advantage of his ignorance and used it to his advantage. He is sorry that he came across such evil people. He adds that some would consider this ignorance, but not him, because it is a real deception. Daria agrees with him and says that it is true, he did nothing wrong. Nain reacts happily to her words. However, Daria immediately says that she will kill everyone who did this to him. She will destroy every single one. Nain freezes, sweat pouring off him, tells her with fear and awkwardness that her smile scares him very much. At this time, Alice suffers with a drink in the city guild of the city of Bibel. He is indignant at how tasteless his drink is. He scolds the girl, asking if she has found someone who will be in the vanguard yet. She replies that she hasn't found one, because the guild doesn't respond to their requests. Another guy says he doesn't think their class is appropriate at the moment, so they can't help them with anything. Alice swears even more, and that guy takes it all calmly. The girls try to calm him down. One suggests that he leave this guild as soon as possible. The other agrees and says that they have enough money to return to their native lands. They can leave tomorrow. Alice shouts how annoying they are. He says that he will not return home until he defeats the trolls. He will not return without clearing his name of shame. Doing so will only shame himself further. The girls awkwardly ask for forgiveness and say that they are sorry, while bowing to him, silently considering him a disgusting dog. One does not understand why they tolerate him. She is so hungry, the other agrees with her and says that she is hungry too. They haven't had a proper meal for days. They don't even have enough money for bread. They had to ask for leftovers from the tavern. Alice bangs his mug and shouts that he's out of drink. The girls are awkwardly silent and then kindly obey him, saying that they will now bring him a new one. They both leave. Alice decides to open the newspaper, but his face freezes in horror, and he goes into detail. He reads that the Redhawks are conquering the Muid Forest. Thanks to a new member of the team, a swordsman in black, his name is Nain. He wonders if this incompetent swordsman in black is really that. Alice reads everything in the newspaper and asks himself again, is his name really Nain? Is this incompetent swordsman in black really? He thinks it's impossible. Maybe they just have the same name and it's not the same guy. He tenses up. The girls come up to him and say that they have brought him more to drink. He rudely and angrily shouts at them to give it to him right now. He takes a big gulp. He says that it is too tasteless. His appetite has disappeared. The girls exchange glances and look suspiciously at their mug. The girls think that it seems like it really is. They don't have any money, so they have to buy cheap drinks. It was better when that incompetent was with them. They had to use auxiliary magic only on Mr. Alice, and at least pretend that they were working. They can't believe he left their team. They never thought he'd have the courage to do that. One thinks that she should have seduced him with her charms. He had a handsome face. The other one thinks that she treated him as a secondary character. She realizes that was a mistake. Both admit that they are sorry that it all turned out this way. Someone comes to them and asks if it is Lord Ailes. He immediately rejoices at this. Alice happily gets up and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He says that it's unexpected to see him drinking here. Asks Alice who he is. Alice introduces him as Mr. Enrico, an adventurer from his hometown, a year older than him. Enrico tells them with a smile that he is pleased to meet them. Enrico says that he thought that the guild tavern was a place for low-ranking adventurers. Didn't they tell him about it? He makes an excuse that he thought it would be nice to sit here from time to time. Enrico smiles and says that he has good taste, how interested he is in all this, seeing how he doubts. Enrico asks them if he can join them. Alice tells him of course he can join. He offers to have a drink together, although it is such a cheap drink. Enrico says that he will also drink this cheap booze. He asks to pour some and bring something to eat, chicken and grilled beef. The girl starts to get angry. The girls start to want to eat from the name of the food, so much so that their mouths start to water. Enrico looks at them and thinks that they are a bit skinny, but still not bad. They drink and celebrate their meeting. Alice is still writhing from the taste of the drink. Enrico begins to tell him about the boy from Alice's team. Alice immediately asks if he is talking about that incompetent guy who subjected him to such terrible humiliation. Enrico asks if it is true that the swordsman can barely use magic, so he calls him a clumsy one. Alice says that he has no magic at all, so he is a loser. He says that this is not quite the impression he had of him. He just returned from Gitero. He heard that he is now being treated as a hero. Alice hears this and starts to lose his temper. Enrico adds that he destroyed the dragon with almost no magic. Alice puts down his mug abruptly and shouts what nonsense this is. It can't be that such a talentless person could do something like that. Enrico replies that they look exactly the same. He says that he saw him several times in their team. It is him. Alice asks with a laugh what is going on. He does not understand if he is jealous that he almost destroyed the dungeon boss. Enrico thinks to himself that this man is his compatriot, also a nobleman, but he is so disgusting. He wants to leave as soon as possible. He begins to say politely that it seems that he, Alice, does not quite understand what is happening. Alice looks at him in surprise and asks what he means. He replies that there are rumors that he was very rude to that boy in black. He says that according to rumors, he did not give him what was due and did not provide him with proper equipment, treating him like a servant. Alice trembles and asks what he is talking about. He never considered him his servant. Enrico says that he despised him as an incompetent magician, was not given normal food or a place to sleep, was always put on the front lines in battle. Because of all this, he was forced to flee. He asks if he understands and smiles. Alice suddenly stands up and shouts that this is all a lie. Does he really think that he made him run away? He demands that Enrico treat him with respect. Enrico sits quietly and asks if this means that he simply kicked him out, leading him to information. Alice proudly shouts that he kicked him out, of course. He says that he was a hindrance in the fight against the trolls. That's why he ordered him to be removed from his team. He clenches his fist and says that it is his fault that they could not defeat the boss, and he will pay for it. Alice declares that he is the victim here. Enrico replies that he understood him. He asks if he has already paid the commission. Alice looks at him in bewilderment. Enrico asks him if he is familiar with the guild rules. If the leader unilaterally refuses a team member, shouldn't he have to pay a certain amount for it? Alice gets scared and starts saying that of course he would never make such a mistake. Enrico laughs and says that he wouldn't, because it's so rude. He starts coughing and saying that he understands everything. There is no such thing as a commission for abandoning a crew member. He is just making fun of Alice. He says that this means that he dismissed the swordsman in black in a friendly manner, allowing him to retire. He replies that he did so. Enrico, with a serious face, declares that it was a mistake. Alice looks at him in horror. Enrico says that he is now a hero, a dragon slayer, a member of the Red Hawk team, belongs to the vanguard of the S-class, and fights side by side with the Red Dahlia. Alice starts to say that maybe there is some mistake here. Enrico looks at the newspaper and says that they did not recognize his talent, made him look incompetent and forced him to do routine work and got rid of him as a useless link. He hands over a newspaper and asks to look here. Alice looks closely and sees an inscription about a ceremony in honor of the Red Hawk team. In the kingdom of Gitero, a new member of the team is introduced, the black swordsman, Nain. He starts to get angry. The girls look closely and say in a voice that it is Nain. Alice answers that he knows, and that he sees it himself, but how is that possible? He states several times that this cannot be, and that it is impossible. He tears the newspaper into pieces with his teeth, tramples it with his foot, and the girls look at him in shock with their mouths open. Enrico asks him if he still doesn't understand. He tells Alice with disdain that he is the only one who is inept here. Alice falls to his knees in horror from the words spoken. He freezes. Everyone looks at him. After a while, he gets up. The girls call him and ask what is wrong with him. Then Enrico asks the girls if they want to eat. They immediately turn to him and with shining eyes ask if it is really possible. Enrico answers that it is possible only under one condition. He says that, starting from this evening, they will take turns coming to his room, and he will of course pay them for it. The girls freeze, but a moment later, they are wolfing down the meat that Enrico ordered with great appetite. He tells them they can eat as much as they want. He asks if they would like a drink, but not this stinking ale, but a glass of the best of the local drinks. One with red cheeks says that she wants a drink. The second sincerely thanks Enrico, calling him sir. From that day on, at night, one after another, they slipped out of their rooms. Alis knew about it, but he was so ashamed that he kept silent. When they showed up in the morning, they returned with money and food. Thanks to them, Alis made ends meet. He became a pimp, but they did not leave him. They understand that Enrico was just playing with them. If he suddenly abandoned them, Alis could show favor and allow them to return to his domain. So they thought. But it was only a pitiful hope. Although this is a story for another time. Elsewhere, Eugene arrives and asks Nain and Daria for forgiveness for keeping them waiting. Nain looks at how elegantly they are dressed with Linda and says that they are like a prince and princess. Eugene and Linda laugh at his reaction. Eugene says that he has a keen eye, he sees everything as it is. Linda says that they wanted to tell him about this earlier. Daria says that these two are a real prince and princess. Nina freezes in place with her mouth open, and they laugh that his reaction is just right. Nain wonders if they are a prince and princess. Eugene says that they are from a kingdom in the center of the continent. Eugene pretends he's third in line to the throne, which is nice. Linda says she's not just a lord's daughter. Daria says she's a princess too. Linda adds that it's exactly the same as Daria, by the way. Nain looks at Daria in shock, and she smiles, and says that now he knows. Daria hugs Linda and says that they are sisters. Nain screams in shock that this cannot be. Linda adds that they are not related. Nain, in despair, says that he does not understand and asks what they are to each other then. Daria says that their families were friends. Linda says that her parents died when she was very little. Daria's parents were commoners, and when Daria was left alone, her parents said that she could live with them, so she became her older sister because she was born 3 months earlier. Daria says that she was taller, however. Linda says that Daria was brash and not very pretty. Daria claims that Linda was jealous of her, and she laughs and asks if she can remember something herself or remind her. Daria asks her to stop talking nonsense. Linda says that even though she's a free adventurer now, it could be a problem back home. Eugene says he wouldn't go back if he could help it. Nain sees their faces and realizes they don't want it. Daria says that's enough, why are they whining? She says it's time to go to the ceremony, the bell rings, they walk down the castle corridor, accompanied by maids. They are allowed into the hall. Nain begins to slow down when she sees 2 rows of servants in front of the large doors. He says openly that he is starting to get nervous again. Linda tells him not to worry because no one is looking at him. Nain feels even worse. He stays put, saying that she is so straightforward. Linda leaves and says, "What can you do? It is true." Eugene says they're all here to see the Red Hawks. No one's going to look at him specifically. Nain begins to think that he is not needed here. The doors are open for them. Eugene says that this is why they will all go out together and show them him. He tells Nain with a smile that he slew the dragon with them and is now a new member of the Red Hawk team. They come out, Nain looks at them in surprise, birds flutter in front of them from their arrival, many people are happy to see them. The 4 of them stand there, people shouting at them that they are heroes. The girls are just delighted, shouting that they are the best, simply amazing. The guy shouts to Daria that she is the Night Princess of Dreams. One speaks about her that she is so beautiful and majestic. Someone shouts at Linda to marry him. An arrow from her crossbow pierces his heart. Linda says how annoying they are. That's what she likes about ceremonies. However, Linda is dejected by this. Nain wonders if he did anything to deserve such a standing ovation. Daria looks at him and says that he killed the dragon. So let him stand up to his full height and call him a hero. He blushes and waves his hand. Linda looks and thinks how modest he is. The guys notice him. They start screaming, so this is the new member of the Red Hawk, the black swordsman who slew the dragon without magic. One yells that he heard his fencing skills are perfect. Someone yells that it's amazing for a teenager. A girl yells that it's impossible and that he's so cute. They all thank him and add that his cat is cute too. Nain greets them awkwardly. Inu sees his uncertainty and raises his paw, meowing loudly. The townspeople cheer and shout even more. Nain mentally admits that it felt so good to receive such recognition for killing the dragon. But he feels even more comfortable standing shoulder to shoulder with Daria. He thinks about continuing to work well. Inu looks at him with displeasure and then asks him if he is getting too carried away. Compared to his father, his fencing is still imperfect. He should know this, that he still has a lot of training to do. While everyone is rejoicing, there are disgruntled citizens behind. Inu notices them. Many people are skeptical about the newcomers who suddenly appeared. It is also known that the previous guild recognized him as incompetent, but this is not even the point, and it is sad. Inu understands that she cannot influence Nain's decisions. His life is only his life, but if someone finds out his secret, it will not be so happy. In the evening, King Gatero is already sitting at the common table and says that he will ask again. He offers him to become their personal magician. Eugene asks for forgiveness from His Majesty and says that they are members of a free adventurers guild and cannot be tied to one country. King Gatero replies that he understands that, but doesn't he want to serve his homeland? If something happened, it didn't matter that the Red Hawks would arrive on time, and if so, where was the certainty that his homeland was safe? Eugene smiles awkwardly. The king sees this and admits that he lost his temper and asks him to forgive him. Eugene explains that at the moment there is no indication that anything dangerous will happen. His brother will take care of it. He assures that their country will be safe, as well as Gatero. The king smiles at his words and calms down. The king talks about his granddaughter, who recently turned 13. He says she is learning earth magic. It is wonderful. She is growing unimaginable beauty, as he believes. Everyone listens attentively. The king smiles and says that this dragon-infested territory will not recover soon. In time, they will, of course, cleanse it. Magic stones and materials are now available in large quantities. The centuries-old, impenetrable forests, he would never have thought that they would once again become a source of national power. He thanks them all for destroying Muel. He is very grateful for that. He bows his head. Nain is surprised by this. Eugene, next to him, smiles and thanks him too, saying that it is a great honor for them. They all go to the guest bedrooms of the royal palace. Nain lies down and says that it is so nice here. The bed is so soft. Inu jumps on the mattress. Eugene is sitting at his desk, writing something, looking tired. Nain pulls him out of bed and apologizes, asking if he was too noisy. He replies that everything is fine. He sees the letter and asks about it. Eugene replies that it is, and that it is from the guild. Nain tries to read it but can't. Eugene says it's encrypted and its contents are unique. It's been bothering him for a long time. Eugene adds that he has no relation to the Red Hawk. It is a private request. Nain asks about him in surprise. Eugene says he'll find out more soon. They are a team after all. He puts his head on the table and says he's so tired and doesn't know what to do. He thinks he's stupid. Nain is surprised by his behavior and says that he is very smart. He does not want to seem like a sycophant. He tells Eugene that he can think of many things at once and control them, like a clown performing 100 tricks. Eugene looks up and tells Nain that he is very perceptive. He wonders if it is a coincidence. Eugene stands up and says that normally he would give him a month off, but he needs Nain's help. Eugene ponders and asks if he remembers the replacement talisman he used in the battle with Muel. He needs to see the person who made it. Nain realizes what map is being talked about. Eugene calls Nain by name and asks to introduce him to this clown. Nain asks in confusion if he really wants him to introduce him to his creator. Eugene, with his hand outstretched, says that it seems that there is a pest in the Adventurers Guild. They need to get rid of it. Eugene says it concerns him and his swordsmanship. There is silence, followed by an explosion. They are shocked and panicked and start screaming and running. Is it really an explosion? They assume it is from the girls' room. They come in. Eugene asks what's going on. Nain asks Daria if she's okay. A pillow lands on Eugene's face. Daria is sitting on the floor in her robe. Everything around her is destroyed. Linda sternly says that they should not dare enter the girls' room without knocking and permission. Eugene apologizes, removes the pillow from his red face, and asks what happened between them. A few minutes earlier, the girls were sitting. Linda was asking Daria what was wrong with her sword. She was looking at it carefully. Daria asks what she means. Linda says that she fought with Muel. She has about a month left. Daria thinks that this is true. The magic in him is weakening. It is better to take him to the blacksmith. She is sorry that she can't do anything herself. She calls her sword a holiday and apologizes for not thinking of it before. Linda says that such things happen. and that her thoughts are elsewhere. Daria asks what she is talking about. Linda asks her if she is not going on a date with Nain. Daria blushes, then takes the sword, activating the magic. Linda tells Eugene what happened. He briefly replies that everything is clear to him. Linda remembers that Nain came in and immediately asked Daria if everything was okay, and tells Nain that he actually flew in with those words. She asks him if it means he doesn't care about her. Nain makes excuses and awkwardly says that it's not true and that he worries too. He blushes and wants to say something. They look at Daria, and she asks not to look at her like that. She just made a mistake with the calibration of the mana in the sword. Nain blushes even more. Then he realizes everything and apologizes, saying that he will turn away. Daria begins to blush too. Linda looks at them as they shy away and turns to Eugene, who asks what's wrong. Linda asks if he thinks there are too many people here. Eugene realizes where she's going with this and says that maybe he should take care of what happened. Linda hits him with the pillow again and says that she means he needs to get out of here. Daria and Linda paid for the repairs and purchase of the destroyed furniture in the room. They feel embarrassed about it. The next day in the kingdom of Nova Nova, in its capital, namely in the guest room, someone comes in and happily greets. This clown says that he's the one who touched Daria's chest. He happily greets the team. Daria asks him to shut up. Linda asks why he opened his mouth. Eugene adds that he would have been better off keeping quiet. The clown cuddles up to Eugene and playfully asks if he should tell him what she's like, then laughs sarcastically. The next moment they find themselves on the central continent. The clown asks how they liked his trick. With the help of long-distance transport magic using a magic circle, the Red Hawks from Gaetero were able to arrive in Nova Nova. The Adventurers Guild headquarters are located in the kingdom of Nova Novae. The Red Hawks are also based in the capital. The clown points to Eugene and says that he became an adventurer instead of fulfilling his royal duties, so now he has no place in the royal family, so he has become an outcast among his own. Eugene says, why is he telling this? Eugene asks Nain to let him introduce him. He is the court jester. The jester takes off his hat and says that he has never met him before. He bows to him and says that his name is Pierrot. He takes a flower out of his hat and introduces himself fully as the court jester of Nova Novo Margarita Pierrot. Nain extends his hand and says it is nice to meet you. He takes the flower, and the object instantly transforms into a bird, then flies away. Nain says his name. Inu comes out and asks him what this misunderstanding is. Nain shakes Pierrot's hand and asks if the magic bird is magic. He replies that of course it is. Pierrot asks if he really thinks that tricks cannot be magic, since by performing his tricks, he too, in a way, uses magic. Nain looks at him for a long moment, then says that he doesn't think so. The clown is surprised and says that he is disappointed in him. Daria tells Nain that it is not worth talking to him, it is just a waste of time. Pierrot says, what a cruel mistress, how can you treat a poor clown like that? Daria tells him to shut up already. He obeys and asks for forgiveness. Nain says that means he is the jester. He says that this is true. He is Marguerite Pierrot. He asks not to be embarrassed to call him simply Mr. Jester. Nain obeys and calls him a jester, but then the clown bursts into laughter. Nain doesn't understand what's wrong, he said as he asked. He tells him that he has such an unusual reaction, he likes it. Eugene says that he has had enough of this empty talk. When will he shut up? The fool offendedly declares that he is in tears. Then he says that he is a jester, he always has tears in his eyes, didn't they notice? Then Eugene says that he is the saboteur in the guild. Pierrot asks in horror, what is this? Eugene says it's a pity it's not true, otherwise they could get rid of him right now, he's very sorry. Pierrot says it's low to joke about such things in his presence, at least that's what he thinks. Eugene says they will get rid of the pest with this joke. Pierrot agrees and says, down with all pests. Pierrot continues to laugh and says that they will destroy the entire breeding ground of pests, altogether. He then turns serious and asks Eugene if this boy can break the magical restrictions placed on him. Eugene looks at him suspiciously and asks where he got that from. He thinks to himself that Lord Nain's sword destroys magic. They should keep it a secret. The clown asks him not to look at him like that. He pulls out cards and says that fortune-telling told him that these are tarot cards. Eugene exhales and says that he came across a man in anticipation. This means that he needs to wait for good news, That's where he gets this hope. Pierrot doesn't understand how he was able to guess the card. He is scared. He hugs himself and starts to tremble, scaring Nain. Eugene says that it seems he doesn't need to introduce the new member of the Red Hawk team in detail anymore, since he himself was able to predict everything. Pierrot replies that it is not a guess, but a premonition. Eugene says that he agrees with him, because there is nothing more terrible than a premonition, so he is right. He points to Nain and says that he is the one he has been waiting for. Nain looks at him in surprise. Eugene says that this is the man who can break his lifelong contract with the kingdom of Nov. He is confident that he can do it even now. Pierrot looks at Nain greedily, and then asks again, is it really right now? Nain screams how exciting it is. Eugene says he is confident that Nain will be able to break the contract the clown signed, obliging him to serve Nova for life. Linda asks if he is sure it can be broken like that. Eugene says it is no problem, he had no choice but to sign the contract. It was supposed to be broken when Pierrot fulfilled the conditions. But the court magician who signed the contract with him was banished, and only he had the power to break it. Linda asks why he was banished if he is a good magician. Eugene replies that it is because of envy. Now he is an ordinary magician, living a slow and measured life in the village. Eugene asked him several times to come back, but he said it was too late. Eugene sighs and says that he does not listen to him at all. Linda says that she has heard this story somewhere before. Pierrot's boss left his post a long time ago, so his job is over, but he is still bound to this place by contract. Pierrot says that because of this contract, he cannot leave here. He cannot even visit his hometown. He asks if they feel sorry for him, but he is crying. Because they made him a jester, he can't even cry normally. Eugene says he knows he looks pathetic, but this contract really needs to be broken. He can't do anything that could harm Nova and hasn't been able to leave this palace for a long time. Nain thinks it's unfair, and he's very sorry. Eugene says he made a promise to Pierre that he would find a way to break the contract in exchange for him working for him. Nain understands. Linda remembers something and says that since he's going from a lifelong commitment to Nova to being Eugene's lapdog, not much will change. The clown says that this is not so, naming Linda Brown. Pierrot says that a person should decide for himself who he will serve, not the state, which obliges him by contract, but whoever he considers necessary. Linda asks what kind of nonsense this is. He replies that it is a story about choices in life, and he loves girls like Linda. He conjures a flower and tells Linda that he has always wanted to spend the night with a girl like her, calling her Brownie again. He kneels down and asks, what about tonight? Linda curtly refuses. Pierre loses his balance in horror, lies down on the floor, and says that he feels very bad. Eugene asks if he could just shut up already. Pierre says he always talks a lot when he's really excited. Eugene says his talking drains the planet's oxygen supply. Pierrot tells Eugene that he is becoming so domineering, it's like they are at odds after 10 years of marriage. Eugene apologizes to Nain for this. Eugene asks him if it's time to reason with him. Pierrot immediately asks in a panic, what is this for? Eugene says he won't complain if he breaks the contract right now. Pierrot gets even more scared. Nain draws his sword, gets into a fighting stance, and says that he will do it, and asks Pierrot not to move. Pierrot trembles and asks if he is really going to cut the connection with the sword. Is he sure? He asks he can trust him, this is his first cancer, so he asks not to hurt him. Nain seriously asks him to be quiet. Pierrot asks for forgiveness for everything. Nain in another dimension sees everything in black and white. Pierrot is wrapped in chains from head to toe. Nain says he sees her, so he's going to cut her down now. He attacks and swings his sword. Eugene watches and thinks that this is amazing. It seemed like he just swung the sword lightly once, but in reality he struck about 12 times. Nain calmly puts the sword back in its sheath. Pierrot feels liberated from the chains and begins to scream that he feels so relieved, that something has changed, that he is no longer tied to this place. He rejoices, jumps, and shouts that it has finally happened. He is free. He sends in curses at the city, rejoicing that he can finally, so to speak. He almost cries. Eugene tells him that only he can be so terribly happy. He knows that he is happy, but it is still too much. Eugene tells Nain that it was great, who replies that it was quite a complex spell. Nain tells Eugene that he's sure only he could have broken it, so that's awesome. There is silence. They look at Nain, while the clown is happy. They all shout in displeasure. Linda asks how that's even possible. Eugene says he's an amazing man. Daria proudly says he knew her. Nain could handle it. Linda says that means Nain is already hers. Nain awkwardly says that he just cut the chain, and they all shout in unison that it's not that simple. Nain thinks to himself that it was like cutting a tangled thread with scissors. Now that's a real magician, just think of it. A true magician. For him it was as easy as using scissors. Nain says he doesn't quite understand what's going on, but he's glad he could help. Eugene says he's just too nice. Linda admits she's starting to worry. Daria says they have to protect him from now on. No wonder Lee was able to trick him. Inu meows. Pierre screams that he was able to free him. Now he is free. He screams in madness that this cannot be. He knew that he was half dragon and half man. He never thought he could free him. Nain begins to think, and it was definitely necessary. Pierrot approaches Nain and asks if he needs anything. Nain awkwardly backs away. Pierrot shakes his hand, says that he helped him a lot, thanks him. Eugene asks him to stop being so active. Pierrot replies that he is just a little out of his mind. He suddenly kneels down and says that he vows to dedicate his entire life to Eugene, and Nain he pledges allegiance to them. Eugene says that's great. Nain asks in surprise if he is half dragon and half human. He replies that the dragon is a shapeshifter. When his father was in human form, he fell in love with his mother. That is how he was born. He says that he is more like a human being. He never met his father, but he still sends money to his mother. It's a pity that his name is Margarita. Nain asks if he doesn't like his name, and the jester replies that he prefers Genovese pizza. Pierrot says his mother makes a great margarita with basil sauce and sliced potatoes, which is almost like a Genovese. Pierrot senses and says that he and Nain have something in common. He tells him that it is nice to meet him. Nain says he likes Genovese pizza too. Inu comes out and looks at him with displeasure. Pierrot leans over and asks her if she likes him. She snorts and meows and purrs discontentedly. Pierrot asks what he said. Nain replies that nothing special, he shouldn't pay attention, but in fact Inu said, "How can you be so ugly?" Pierrot says that he heard that Nain has no magical abilities at all. Nain is surprised, and the clown asks, "This is not true." Nain doesn't know what to answer, and Pierrot says that he has a lot of mana. Nain replies that he has almost nothing. The guild told him that he is an F rank. Pierrot replies that he doesn't think so, even though he is a half-dragon, but he only has E-rank magic. Pierrot says that he probably has a lot more than him. He turns to Eugene and asks what he thinks about it. Eugene replies, frankly, that he thinks he doesn't really have much of it. Nain has already been looked for magical powers, but none have been found. Pierrot says it's no wonder people like him can't understand it. Eugene gets angry at this statement. Pierrot says that even he, with such a meager magical power, can understand that the boy is clearly not F rank. Eugene asks what this means. He replies that either there is something wrong with the person who took the measurements, or the device that measures the strength of magic in the guild is faulty, or perhaps it is human error. When asked if Nain has magic, Pierrot smiles slyly and says that he doubts that such mistakes are accidental. Eugene says that the measurements were taken in a strange way he understands now. Inu meows, offering to tell them about that incident, but Nain doesn't understand what it was. Inu explains. Nain remembers Alice's words, who ordered him not to measure magical power without his permission. Everyone is shocked and asks what he just said. Pierrot is happy, saying that he said it right on target. Inu gets irritated by the clown's behavior and bites off his finger. He screams and talks about his graceful finger, asking Eugene to cure it. Eugene heals his finger while he hides from Inu. Eugene seriously asks Pierrot if he can do it. He says he can, because he's finally free and can't wait to get outside. Nain asks if they mean that Mr. Pierrot will help them with the pest control. Eugene says that, to be more precise, he will simply find them, and they will manage on their own. The jester stands with a magnifying glass. Pierrot begins to spin and says that for the last 6 months, he had to be a court jester, but now he will become an adventurer. He says his strengths are tricks and tackles. Daria hits him, and Nain doesn't understand why those are strengths. Pierrot spins even more, then stops abruptly in his suit and says that he is still good at investigation. Nain admires the power of the jester's magic. Pierrot talks about sleight of hand. Nain shouts that it's awesome, and Pierrot asks for more praise. Eugene says that a disease has spread from the western to the central part of the continent. Eugene reveals that he received an order to fight the epidemic personally from the guild leader. However, it seems that she herself is partly involved in this. Pierrot was investigating this case. Nain asks what kind of disease it is. Eugene explains that it is a psychotropic or hallucinogenic substance that plunges into a state of euphoria, but causes strong addiction, an illegal drug. Nain wonders if this stuff has infiltrated their guild. Eugene says that when he heard his story, his suspicion turned to certainty. They think that the negligence in measuring magic power and these drugs are somehow connected. Eugene asks Nain if he can dig into Alice's surroundings. He thinks that's how they can find clues. Pierrot at the window asks if they can leave already. He can't wait any longer. He smiles and says that he should wait impatiently for the results of the investigation. He jumps out of the window. Nain looks and says it's high up here. The falling Pierrot first screams and then says it's just a joke. He takes out some kind of tube and blows up a huge balloon with his face on it, asking to be admired. With it, he is guaranteed a soft landing. He still falls, but gets up and continues screaming. Nain thinks he's tough. Eugene asks if he's planning to run there. Eugene says that while Pierrot gathers information, all they can do is wait. The girls are happy because, until then, they can relax and unwind. The next day, Linda knocks on Daria's mansion and says that she got some good tea here. She invites her to drink it together, since she has a day off. They sit down to drink tea. Daria inhales and says that the tea has a wonderful aroma, just as she expected. Linda wonders if her words are really about the tea or about her. She smiles and tells herself to think of it as her. Linda crawls to her, sits down next to her, and then cuddles up to her, thinking and caressing her mentally about how nice it is to hug her. She thinks that no matter how hard she hugs, she doesn't say anything. Probably for her, it's like being bitten by a favorite cat. Then she starts thinking about the black cat swordsman. She thought Nain stole her from him, that loving look of a maiden, and no one thought about her. She's jealous, she's her hug pillow. She reasons that if it were not for him, Daria would not have known love, and, without ever knowing it, would have married without being in love, would have shared a bed with someone and parents of children, and would have loved them, but with a different love. She thinks about what kind of fate awaits her if she ever has children, and she plans to give them names. Daria sternly calls Linda's name. She stands up. Daria blushes and asks what to give the boy, to please him, maybe a ribbon. Linda says that if he is talking about Nina, then some trinket for the weapon. Daria says that the scabbard and handle are special, but there was no good lanyard. She will give that. Linda asks Daria. She just called him a boy. She agrees and blushes even more. Linda blushes and is touched by her reaction. She is the very essence of innocence. At this rate, she will not be naming children for a very, very long time. She thinks that she is too kind. She kindly tells Daria, well, what can you do with her? She calls her and tells her to get dressed faster. Daria asks where they are going, but Linda hurries her and asks her to get dressed faster. They come to Nain. Linda says that he hasn't updated his equipment yet. She calls him to the blacksmith shop. He follows them. At the blacksmith, Daria's master says that it seems that these damages are from an explosion. In the background, Linda asks Nain how he likes it. Nain puts on his armor completely. Linda laughs at him, and Daria looks at him with loving eyes. Daria says that Nain would be better suited for light armor. Linda brings something and asks, how about this one? Daria yells that it's too much. Linda pulls out more things and says that this one is made of leather. She thinks it will suit him. She replies that the simpler the better. In the end, Nain is dressed up and looked at with admiration. They shout that this is it and decide to take him. The master says he needs to take measurements. He calls him to come with him. Linda whispers something to Daria. She says that if she wants to buy Nain a present, now is the time. She winks at him. Daria goes outside and thinks where she can buy it. Inu comes up to him and meows. Daria asks her if she is really on a walk, and she meows, replying that she is on patrol. Daria says that if she doesn't mind, then let him sit on her shoulder. Inu meows negatively, and Daria says, what an important gentleman. They walk past the shop windows. Daria notices something, dishes and various potions, after which she immediately goes in. Inu looks and thinks, is this really a grocery store? She thinks to go home. Daria comes out and apologizes to Inu for keeping him waiting. She hands him the ribbon and asks if she thinks Nina will like it. She says that the legs and handle of his sword show that he has been using it for a long time, but it is a gift from his father, dear to his heart. Inu meows. Daria says that the lanyard is just consumables, so she thought that she could give it as a gift. Inu meows with a smile and thinks to herself, wow, she thought this out so well. Daria giggles and tells Inu to come home with her. Here, Inu jumps on Daria's shoulder, and she is surprised. She asks how she can sit on her shoulder. Inu meows proudly, and Daria says she is glad to hear it. After that, they walk home together. During the few days that Pierrot spent gathering information, the Red Hawks enjoyed their rare days off. At this time, Eugene walks down the street and secretly takes a piece of paper from some guy. Is there really a clue? At Eugene's mansion, while he is busy with his business, Pierrot suddenly appears and screams, and Eugene is frightened. Is he always so noisy? He asks him not to suddenly jump out of nowhere and yell in his ear. He apologizes and says he wanted to scare him. Eugene hopes she doesn't do that to girls. Pierrot thinks a surprise date sounds good too. There is no sign that he used teleportation. If he did, the barrier of the mansion would have reacted, and he himself as an S-class mage would have felt it. That's why they need this gesture. Eugene asks him what business he came for, and he sarcastically asks if it's not obvious. He says he came to report the results of the research. Eugene says he's fast. Has he really understood everything already? He shouts happily. Didn't he say that you can't underestimate Mr. Pierrot? He says that a nobleman he knew named Enrico told him a lot of interesting things, although he already knew a lot of them. Eugene asks who is behind the distribution of the drugs. Pierrot says it is a high-ranking nobleman who runs the port in the Muviol Kingdom, Lord Tamika. Eugene never thought they were shipping by sea. Tamila was always rumored to be involved with crime. He thinks his trading partner, if he's not mistaken. His thought doesn't end there. Pierrot says that the Babel Guild, that is, the branch where Nain worked, is in cahoots with him. Eugene listens to him attentively. Pierrot says that Lord Tanya also has a son who is an adventurer in that guild. His name is Alice. Eugene says with relief that everything came together, and Pierrot shouts that it's just perfect. Eugene asks if it's a coincidence, and Pierrot replies that Nain himself is blissfully unaware. He hardly expected that, having left the group, he would be able to remove all the pests at once. This is impossible. True, they still have to get rid of them. Pierrot asks if they can organize a raid. Eugene asks why so rudely. He thinks it will be easy, so they will use interrogation with bias. Pierrot is glad that this will be an interrogation from the strongest team on the continent. It's even scarier than the raid. Nain comes out to the guys in his new gear. They all look at him happily, including Pierrot. Linda screams how great it is. Daria thinks only about the fact that he is wearing her warm jacket. Pierrot screams with exclamations. Eugene comes down the stairs and compliments him, saying that he has excellent equipment. He apologizes for interrupting their rest. He says seriously that they will not waste time. He tells everything. Everyone's mood changes. He counts on their help. Daria asks angrily, that is, he wants to say that a feudal lord named Timitsa bribed the head of the branch in Babel and sold drugs through the guild, and this same head deliberately measured Nain's magical power in such a way as to dub him useless and essentially sell him to Tanmiwa's son, Alice. She is shaking with rage and says that neither the guild nor that man understood his value. She is already openly screaming that they called him useless, used him as a laborer. She asks for permission. Can she wipe this city off the face of the earth? Everyone asks her to stop in different ways. Daria says that although it could be called a happy accident, well, of course, only for her. For him, it was nothing but misfortune. Nain asks worriedly if this is luck for her. She replies that of course it is, because she met him. Daria already takes on a serious look and wants to say something, but Linda asks if it will be enough for them to smash this Tanmiwa's face. Eugene says that without proof they can't touch him. Daria says that they need proof. Daria asks if Pierrot didn't get them. Pierrot replies that, alas, it was beyond his power. The party is on a ship, but it is hidden by top-notch cloaking magic, and even Eugene is unlikely to be able to detect it, so there are not many options. But then everyone suddenly remembers something, and looks at Nain, who steps back and asks why they are looking at him like that. In the east of the continent, the kingdom of Moodvol, a man sits and says that the Mainland Adventurers Guild is conducting some kind of investigation and wants to inspect their cargo. The man calls them pathetic vagabonds. Have they completely forgotten where their place is? This is Lord Tanmiwa. The butler tells him awkwardly that if he refuses the guild's request, they do not know how the king will react. Tanmiwa replies that he understands everything, so let them investigate. With their disguise, they will never find the goods. The butler says that it is, however, the investigation is being carried out by the Scarlet Falcons. Tanmiwa says that they are heroes who have killed several dragons. Even these achievements will not help them in any way as a result. He turns to the guys who are standing on the side and asks if they agree. Meanwhile, unknown people are standing on the roof and answer that, of course they agree. They jump from the roof onto the workers at the port and kill them with ease. They panic and do not understand what is happening here, who they are. He is killed at once, and in the palace, Tanmiwa laughs heartily, the butler standing awkwardly nearby. The butler thinks about the detachment of personal bodyguards of Lord Tanmiwa. All of them possess magic, although they are recruited from all sorts of rabble. The leader approaches them with his eye closed. Tanmiwa praises the leader, a former pirate who has honed his assassin's techniques to perfection, Bartholomew. Bartholomew says that Scarlet Falcons may be the best at dealing with dragons, but they are the strongest against humans. He turns to his lord and says that they have nothing to worry about. Even if they somehow manage to find the ship, they will never defeat them in battle. Adventurers are too used to fighting monsters. He says that, like all the adventurers he has killed before, the Scarlet Falcons, supposedly the strongest on the continent, are no match for them. He smiles at the thought that they will then pass that red-haired Daria around in circles. He thirsts for blood. Tanmiwa laughs and says she's counting on them. Bartholomew smiles and the butler stands awkwardly to the side. Tanmiwa asks him if there is a response from the head of the branch in Babel. He replies that there is, and that he is ready to increase the volume of imports. Tanmiwa smiles and says he is finally being honest with himself. He asks how Alis is doing. The butler says that the young gentleman is asking for additional financial assistance. Tanmiwa asks, is it really true that he shouldn't have ignored his advice again? Not a penny for him. It will be a good lesson for him. Someday he plans to hand over his business to Alis, but as long as he treats his father like this, it won't happen. He believes that children should respect their parents and learn from them. He is a man. Let him learn to earn money himself. It's okay if the method is not the most honest. He says out loud that once he takes over the Adventurers Guild, he will be able to control the entire continent. Then everything will belong to him. Tanmiwa shouts that everything will belong to him. The butler only submissively bows his head before him. Mr. Tanmiwa has already gotten rid of many of his enemies, using his status as a nobleman, and shaved off everyone like pirates and mercenaries. Thanks to his power and strength, he has subjugated vast territories, a shadow of worry on his noble face. But even taking all this into account, this time he has acquired too much danger. The butler says that it seems that his death hour is near. The day of inspection arrives in the east of the continent in the kingdom of Mudwool, the port city of Tanmiwa. One of the ship's people asks the investigators to temporarily hand over their magical weapons and armor because the ship contains flammable substances. The Scarlet Falcons arrive at the port. They are met by Tanmiwa himself, and Bartholomew stands next to him. Eugene is surprised and says that it is a great honor because Lord Tanmiwa personally came out to meet them. He replies that he simply has to assist the guild's investigation. Besides, since they were accompanied by an inspector from the king, he simply could not fail to appear. The inspector once again asks for his forgiveness. He adjusts his glasses. His name is Ianon. He says it's not that they suspect him, but he doesn't want to hear complaints from other nobles later. Simply put, it's a formality. Tanmiwa thinks to himself, this is the king's dog. How dare he even come here again? Out loud he says that they will simply dispel baseless accusations. As a high-ranking nobleman, he is used to the envy of others. The inspector then asks to take them straight to the cargo. He leads everyone forward. Nain looks back. He senses that they are being watched, hidden behind the magic of camouflage, several people around the ship, even more. They have appeared since the moment they entered the port. Everyone understands that the battle has already begun. Nain walks with a serious face, holding a small knife in his hands. The day before the inspection at the mansion, Tanmiwa said that the guild had invited the royal inspector, apparently as a witness. Bartholomew says that it seems that the king is digging under them too, wants to use the guild to get evidence, but if they don't find anything, then everything will be screwed. They will make them regret their decision. Tanmiwa asks about their positions. He replies that he will place 30 men from the detachment in different parts of the port. Tanmiwa says he can use the noble troops against the king's inspection and the guild. Many of them are loyal to the government, but not to him, and it will take a lot of work to shut them up. Of course, if he wanted to organize a rebellion against the king, he would have to use the noble army, but now was not the case. They would make do with personal bodyguards. He speaks of the hope that they will not have to act either. Bartholomew asks not to worry, they will simply send them home empty-handed. He takes the pen and says that it is still worth playing it safe just in case. They decide to use a barrier that creates interference. The royal inspector probably carries magical stones of communication and recording, but it will be enough to block only the action of the first. And then, at worst, they will simply take the stone with the inscription from him. Tanmiwa laughs and says that dead men do not talk. In order to use a spell, mages vitally need a weapon, with the help of which the magic is activated. Bartholomew says that if you take away their weapons, they will not be able to use magic. Ships powered by magical stones are generally prohibited from carrying weapons. The only people exempt are senior officers. They will completely disable them before they even board the ship, essentially leaving them naked. Tenmira says he understands. All members of their squad in the port are magical archers. Disguised, they will wait in full combat readiness with crossbows capable of killing a troll. Bartholomew says that any human will die instantly. Tenmira says that if they take away the armor as well, they won't be able to use defensive magic, and there's no way they can escape the bolts. Bartholomew asks about the inspector, will they let him go alive? He says he has seen their cloaking magic many times, the chance is almost zero, but he can smell something wrong. Bartholomew says they should get rid of him. Tenmira tells him to leave it because he will definitely be useful to them. He laughs and says he can't wait until the morning. At the same time, in Eugene's mansion, a briefing is taking place. Eugene points to a map and says that, in general, this is what to expect from the enemy. Daria says there's no point in coming up with a plan, they'll just go head on. Eugene says she's right. Daria looks at the documents and says that they are not engaged in sea transportation here, but rather piracy, attacks on civilian ships, the capture of people and trade, forgery of land and ship documents, racketeering and drugs, of course. Daria gets angry and says that they have settled in well here. Eugene says that this is despite the fact that a third of the continent is still considered dangerous territory. He says he has one concern about this operation. All this information was given to them by the internal intelligence of the Kingdom of Mudwool. They are also afraid of how widespread Tanmiwa's influence has become, because he may start a rebellion if he becomes too powerful. Linda asks what his fear is. He replies that they can't trust them completely. Linda asks suspiciously what the point is for royal intelligence to lie to them. Eugene says it's an irrational idea, but what if even the king and the government are completely under Tenmiwa's control? Linda thinks it's possible, but the chance is 10%. Eugene says that's why he wants her to stand guard with special anti-barrier equipment. He thinks that Ballista can get rid of the interference. Linda wonders if it's the one that can pierce dragon scales. She panics and asks if she is really needed. Their opponent is one lord. Does he really think that they are facing a whole country? It is just a regular mafia. Eugene says that in the battle with Mule, he thought he had calculated everything in advance, but it was not enough. Linda began to explain that it would cost money to move her here. Linda felt a little sorry for them. She asked Eugene if he was sure and if he would regret his decision. Eugene replied that he understood that he might seem overly cautious, but he asked Linda to do it anyway. The girl agreed. She said that if the leader asked her so, she had no right to refuse. Even if she was of no use, Linda would not complain. The girl added with a grin that the money wasn't hers anyway. Eugene agreed and thanked her. The leader then told the team that they should now prepare as if they were going to fight a dragon. At this time, Bartholomew was sitting on the couch and thinking about Eugene's team. He said that they probably thought as if they were going to battle a dragon. He said that the main mistake of adventurers is that their opponent is a man, a rational being. Eugene told his team that the enemy was, after all, a human being, and a very mean one at that. He told the boys to act with an understanding of the enemy's level of strategic skill. Daria asked him what he meant. Eugene replied that the enemy knows what seems best or most logical to them, and can act in the opposite way, because he is human. Simply put, you shouldn't accidentally cross yourself. At that moment, Bartholomew and Tanmiwa appeared in front of the team. Tanmiwa, turning to Mr. Eugene, introduces his cargo. He says that one painting is worth as much as a mansion. Eugene turns to Nain and asks if he sees it. Nain enthusiastically confirms and says how beautiful it is. Rays of light of different colors intertwine with each other. It's like a rainbow river. Nain adds that he wonders if the northern lights look anything like this painting. Nain says that it is even higher level than the one that was put on Mr. Pierrot. Amazing. Tanmiwa says that Nain is absolutely right and that this painting was painted 1,000 years ago. Eugene said that everything was fine and they were starting. He wished everyone luck in the fight. Daria smiled in response. Inspector Ianon said that everything was fine and they should start. Nain says that only such beautiful magic is very easy to cut. He holds out the knife. Bartholomew and Tanmiva's expressions immediately changed. Tanmiva screamed in amazement. Inspector Ianon was also very surprised by Nain's words. Eugene told them with a smile to surrender now, and then he would promise to grant them a painless death. Nain says that he first killed a man when he was 6 years old. This is Nain's unknown past. And yet, life in a mountain village is full of dangers. Nain walked through the forest and collected wood chips. Both people and monsters are complete lunatics here, Nain thought. Suddenly, a huge bear-like monster with spikes and a long tail appears above the little boy. The monster growled and rose up on its hind legs to attack little Nain. At that moment, a man with a sword appeared behind the bear. He took his sword out of its case and with one blow, cut the huge bear in half. Nain was very happy. She called the man Dad. The man answered, turning to his son, that the sun would soon set. The boy walked with his father through the forest. One day, robbers attacked Nain's house. They were wearing masks and carrying knives. Nain and his father approached the house. As they stood in front of the room where the girls were sleeping, Nain's father told him that they mustn't wake up his mother and Leela and asked him to be quiet. The boy was surprised. The robbers were examining the house. One of them came up to the door and asked about the owners propping the door with something. He opened the door to the street and saw a dark-haired boy standing on the threshold. At that moment, a sword was thrust straight into his stomach. One of the remaining robbers turned around in surprise. The other one started asking what kind of house it was. He was indignant that the house was so big, and there was nothing valuable in it. He asked the other how he was, if he had found anything. At that moment, the other robber already had his head cut off. The robber starts to get worried, looks around, and asks, what is going on? Where did he disappear to? Then an armed Nain stands behind him. The one standing outside, looking tired, thinks that they have been taking too long. He opens the door and indignantly suggests that they should get it over with quickly. Then blood splashes on his face. He sees how Nain plunged his sword right into the back of his comrade. He backs away in horror and then runs away from the house in panic. Nain breathes out calmly. Of course, he didn't just let him go. Since they were attacked, they should be ready to strike back. He follows him and comes to their area. He sees 3 swords and 12 throwing knives in front of him. He also counts, naming the objects. Smoke bombs, noise grenades, these with a sleeping mixture. First, he needs to go back and prepare properly. His father told him that when he found the lair, he had to clean it out completely, leave at least one alive. He would come for revenge. His father taught him this. In essence, it is no different from the goblin hunts of the past, and yet life in a mountain village is full of dangers. He quietly approaches the fire and thinks that both people and monsters are the same. He does not see much difference between them. He kills the people of this village. He takes and cleans his sword with a rag. He reasons that monsters turn into smoke after death. Less fuss with cleaning and leave magic stones. And people, weapons and armor that can be sold. That's all. He thinks that there are creatures who do not understand what they are told, both among monsters and among people. Suddenly, Nain hears a sound behind him. A huge masked man raises his sword over the boy. Nain realized this and turned around in an instant, cutting off the head and arms of the villager who had attacked him. His gaze was cold and stern. Nain put the sword back in its sheath. He thought that in order to never be abandoned again, he must master the 7-star style. At that moment, someone approached the boy and patted him on the head. Nain was scared at first. It was Nain's father. He praised his son. The boy was very happy and began to smile broadly, squinting his eyes. He was happy. He wanted to hear his father's praise again, and there were so many things he wanted to learn from him. Eugene's team stood in front of Bartholomew and Tanmiwa. They were all smiling confidently, while the tricksters looked at them with confusion. Nain wondered in surprise why he suddenly remembered his childhood in the mountain village at this moment. He understood. It was because today he would kill a man again. He thought that he would never see his father, mother, or sister again, but they would surely praise him. He believed in it. Tanmiwa stammered to himself that this couldn't be happening. The magic of disguise was dispelled. He wondered if this kid could have done all this. Maybe he had some special butter knife in his hands? No, who in their right mind would believe that? Tanmiwa looked at the boxes behind him. They couldn't let them see the cargo anyway. Bartholomew and his men stood in front of the boxes with the cargo. They blocked the cargo with themselves, preventing Eugene's team from getting to it. Inspector Iannone ordered the criminals to step aside. Bartholomew closed his eyes and calmly replied that he was asking for forgiveness, and it seemed that due to someone's stupid oversight, the cargo had been teleported to another location. He threw up his hands and added that he couldn't even imagine what kind of fool was to blame for this. He called it an annoyance. Inspector Iannone angrily told Bartholomew to show him what was in the boxes. The criminal replied that he was very sorry, but he could not do that. The inspector said that in that case, he didn't think they would mind if he or someone from the guild took a look for themselves. Bartholomew chuckled. He asked how they were going to see what was in the boxes themselves. At that moment, Nain snuck up behind him and climbed onto the boxes to see what was in one of them. Nain held the flask in his hands, opening its cap. He turned and looked at Bartholomew. The criminal screamed. He asked Nain when he had time and tried to stop him. Nain poured something into the flask he was holding and looked at the contents. He turned to Eugene. Eugene asked Nain about the result. The liquid in the flask turned black. Nain turned to the leader and said that it was a drug. The criminals were stunned. Bartholomew clenched his teeth in anger. Eugene ordered them all killed. It was a blow to their vanity. They are surrounded by Bartholomew's subordinates, but they do not panic or move. He orders them all to be killed. However, in an instant all the criminals are injured. It was Nain and the inspector who used their magic and weapons. Bartholomew sees his subordinates fall unconscious and stands in horror, not understanding what is happening. He turns to Eugene, who smiles and says he'll give them one last chance. He holds out his hand and tells them to surrender now. Bartholomew is shaking. Tanmiwa himself opens his mouth in horror. Eugene smiles triumphantly in their faces. Here, Bartholomew suddenly takes out a crystal and shows it to them. Nain sees that it is a teleportation crystal. Bartholomew turns to his lord. There is a bright flash, and they disappear right in front of them. They move to the office of Tanmiwa's mansion, where a butler and another subordinate stand. Bartholomew thinks that monsters don't use crystals, so they most likely didn't expect them to teleport. Bartholomew turns away and tells his lord that he will return to the ship. He grits his teeth and says that he needs to kill these people. Tanmiwa grabs his hand and asks him in fear if everything will be okay personally. It seemed to him that they killed several of his guys. Bartholomew thinks that not several, but exactly 5. He thinks that not all is lost. He tells him not to worry and just wait here. Tanmiwa smiles and obeys him. Bartholomew turns to Seamus and asks if he has another crystal. Seamus says he does, and that it is directly connected to the ship. Bartholomew says that is excellent and that he is coming with him. Bartholomew turns to the butler John and asks him to take care of Mr. Tanmiwa. After these words, he disappears. John tells his master that they need to prepare for escape. Tanmiwa looks at his hands, groans, and says how humiliating this is. He slaps his thighs. He stands up and says that everything can't end so stupidly. He will never forgive them. This fortitude is characteristic of those who have made a name for themselves through strength. It is true talent. He will not wait for the servant to return. Shaking with fear, burning with anger, he will immediately begin to think of a new plan and will definitely carry out his revenge. There is a reason why Bartholomew, a former pirate captain, serves him, and it is not money, because he is captivated by the strength of spirit. John muses that, as he thought, it would be dangerous to leave him alive. Tanmiwa yells at John, asking how many more teleportation crystals they have. Without waiting for an answer, he turns to him and is horrified by what he sees. In front of him stands the jester Pierrot, smiling at him. On the ship, Eugene says, disappointed, that they escaped. Nain asks if they can track where they escaped to. He replies that for this, an observer is needed. After the teleportation, a small trace of mana remains, and he will show the way. He adds that, however, it will not be possible to teleport after them. Teleportation crystals do not have such a function in principle. He says that he left Linda to watch the port. If all goes well, she should understand which direction they moved in, and then they will follow the trail of mana. Eugene says that's if she's still alive. Nain asks if the interference is preventing them from checking. Eugene asks Nain what he thinks they will do. Nain looks around, hears sounds, and thinks the enemy is gathering above them. He signals the inspector. He says that the head of the bodyguards ran away with his master. They have evidence, and the difference in strength is obvious. Everyone smiles. Nain says that they will continue to run, in his opinion, far away, without returning to the mansion, where no one will find them. He sighs and says that it looks like they're going to have a hard time catching up. Eugene says that's reasonable, the inspector is delighted, and Daria says that's as expected of Nain. Nain ponders the fact that Darius is wearing neither armor nor a robe, and he doesn't know where to look. Eugene says that he also thinks that the enemy will flee. Moreover, he himself would do the same in his place. However, he turns to Nain and asks him to remember what he said before the operation began. Nain says that if he remembers correctly, it's like preparing for a fight with a dragon, and something else, I think. Inu meows, calling him stupid. Eugene suggests that he was talking about understanding their level of strategic skill. Nain looks around and senses their presence. He doesn't understand, they have no chance of winning, he could have simply run away with the Lord, and the captain doesn't need to come personally to detain them. Nain asks in confusion why they didn't do that. Eugene replies that it's because they wouldn't understand. Eugene says they are still confident that they have the advantage. In his opinion, they don't even understand how the two of them managed to defeat their comrades back then. At the moment when they were surrounded, he predicted the movements of these four with lines and killed them. He left the last one for him because he read his mind that he would kill them, although he didn't think that the poor guy would turn into a crushed tomato. He recalls that Daria didn't even think about moving, most likely because she considered them unworthy of her attention. Nain says that their captain lost 5 in an instant and didn't even notice it happened, and he still thinks he can win. Eugene answers him with a smile that it is precisely because he did not notice that he cannot understand. Although perhaps he has some kind of cunning plan, they also defeated Mule only because they had an ace up their sleeve, Nain. It becomes clear to Nain that now they are a dragon that they must defeat. Eugene says they will act cautiously, but not overestimating the enemy. He extends his hand and says that they must maintain absolute advantage by overwhelming the enemy with their strength. He says that they cannot make a mistake anywhere. He assumes that they will destroy them for sure. His words make Nain remember his father, a man he can still trust. He would never want to be in the place of his enemies. They are climbing up the stairs. Eugene stops and tells the inspector that he will be responsible for his protection. Eugene says that within a radius of 5 meters from him, no magic will harm him, even though he can't move as fast as him. It's better not to go far. He asks him if he is okay with this. Iannone replies that he is relying on him. Nain looks at them and tenses up he is afraid. He thinks that life in a mountain village is, of course, full of dangers, but apparently there are enough of them in the city too. Bartholomew stands on the deck of the ship and thinks that the enemy is still inside. All his people are already in place, ready to attack. He speculates that they made sure they didn't have teleportation crystals, the interference is still working, so they can't contact their comrades. He thinks that their support, a sniper who is hiding somewhere, also cannot shoot accurately due to interference. Of course, there is a possibility that the fire will occur without their guidance, but this will be enough to track the trajectory of the shot. He thinks that even if one of them gets wounded, they will know exactly where he is and shoot back. He understands that the enemy has no support or escape route. Bartholomew threw their weapons into the sea. He is confident that they will win, but he understands that it is too early to relax. He still does not understand how they killed 5 of his guys. The answer is simple. Close combat, they have taken measures so victory is theirs. Everything is going according to plan. They will just shoot them. Now that they can't use defensive magic, they can't avoid the crossbow bolts, he decides to turn a blind eye to the damage to the ship. They're using 12mm explosive bolts now. They drain mana very quickly, so one person can only fire a dozen shots, but they're incredibly destructive. He thinks with glee that they will see how they will survive this, because this is a simultaneous volley from more than 10 people. The door opens slightly, Varlamov tenses up. He thinks that the door to the lower deck has opened, they go, then he realizes that it's a trap. Probably some kind of bait. They'll throw some luggage or the corpse of their comrade out the door, provoking them to open fire. He tells himself not to forget that they even turned a butter knife into a weapon. They must be up to something. They all calmly walk out, opening the door. Bartholomew just freezes in place, because they came out without any preparation and with bare hands. He is indignant. Is this really their principle? Not to think. He decides that the chance cannot be missed. He gives the order to attack his own. There is a sound of an explosion, all the bullets fly at them, but everything hits the ship itself, and their bodies disappear. Vermelofme doesn't understand and thinks, are there really no direct hits? What's more important? Where are those three, or at least their corpses? Even if they were torn apart, there should have been some traces left. Because of the interference, he himself cannot contact his subordinates. He does not understand where they all are. Here, behind him, the bodies of his comrades are scattered. Bartholomew realizes that they are using martial arts in their era, when magic is more thriving than ever. He is surprised that they use them. Bartholomew smiles and realizes that the technique is the same as his. For a pirate who has to fight on a narrow deck, close combat techniques are much better than a crossbow, but he doesn't understand how. Close combat magic is activated by special gauntlets and increases physical abilities. Whether it's close combat or long range, any magic requires a weapon. He says about the inspector that this old man wears completely different gloves, and there is another man who uses magic without a weapon. As the bullets fly towards them, a barrier dome forms. Bartholomew looks on in horror and screams, "How can they use magic?" Inspector Iannone pushes one of the attackers, and the contact with him causes the enemy's body to simply burst. The rest are all preparing to attack. Bartholomew does not understand how this happens. No person can use magic without a tool, because the spells are engraved on it. Several dozen simple spells, skillfully intertwined. This is what modern magic looks like. Initially, this power belongs to spirits and fairies and corporeal creatures, and they simply borrow it, and even this is already a separate art. Magic is an attempt to repeat divine miracles. Bartholomew thinks it is impossible for a mere mortal to perform magic with his bare hands. Eugene smiles and reflects the attacks. Bartholomew does not understand how they use her. Eugene stretches out his hands and begins to chant with a calm face. The best of the mages are able to cast many spells silently at once. Instead of magical weapons, they use their own brains. Eugene says that you just need to play several musical parts in your head, like an orchestra. Linda says that this is harmful. Where has he ever seen an orchestra in which everything is performed by one person? Now Eugene hums Die Meistersinger von Nova Nove, an opera often performed in Eugene's hometown of Nova Nove, and he has memorized the overture. After he first heard it after escaping from the dreary palace, it left a lasting impression on him. It was after this that he discovered his talent for magic. Eugene sets up a barrier around himself, and an inspector stands next to him, then suddenly comes out and pushes one of the criminals. This is the secret technique of Gunchi Palm. This technique allows you to drive the mana accumulated in your body directly into the enemy's body. This move makes him explode from the inside. No matter how strong the armor he wears, it won't save him. By combining a martial art technique from the eastern part of the continent and a spell written into his magic weapon, Iannone created this technique himself. Bartholomew does not understand how this happens. He does not see the magic gloves on his hands. Magic weapons can be implanted into the body. Iannone reflects that after this, no search is scary, because no one will search him from the inside. Of course, it's not that simple. The mortality rate during surgery is 50%. Even if it is successful, side effects occur in almost everyone. Some of them make the man unable to fight, although ironically, that is what he had the surgery for. In a sense, it is an act of senseless cruelty. Iannone adjusts his glasses and thinks that, fortunately, he was lucky. He got away with facial paralysis as well as almost complete loss of vision and sense of taste. He moves his ear, he hears, he sees a blurry image with the help of magical glasses, and he eats sickly sweet cakes after work. And that's enough to keep fighting. Another exception concerns Daria. She comes out of the barrier, the enemy calls her stupid and laughs that she jumped out of the protective barrier herself. The blows hit her on the stomach. A huge explosion occurs where Daria is. Everything is smoking, and then she laughs and rejoices that everything worked out. She is ready. Then palms appear from the smoke and touch the enemy's chest. Daria uses the palms of Gunchi. At that moment, the enemy explodes, leaving only small pieces of his cloak. The only exception is Daria, a very ordinary genius. Daria exhales proudly. Eugene looks at him and thinks awkwardly that, after all, their world cannot be called fair. It wasn't magic, she just concentrated mana in her stomach. Thanks to Daria's huge mana reserves, it was enough to easily reflect the magic bolts. The inspector analyzes and thinks that she then simply released the accumulated mana from her hands. Eugene looks and thinks about the result he achieved by simultaneously reading a dozen spells in his brain, a result he achieved after long research, sacrificing his body. He realizes that Daria repeated them using only her innate amount of mana and instinct in an instant. Iannone smiles. On the other hand, he had shown her this technique himself, back when he worked as an instructor at the Magic Academy. He remembers how they all learned from him and stood next to him. They trained on a tree, Daria could take it down with ease and a gentle smile. He never thought that he would be reunited with the students on an investigation. Eugene remembers and thinks that he, too, never thought that the inspector from Mudwall would be a combative old man with a sweet tooth. They agreed that they would pretend not to know each other on the ship. Of course, it was because of this that their teamwork was able to surprise Bartholomew so much. At this time, Bartholomew stands in shock, not understanding who they are at all. While Eugene hums, the inspector asks what is with the interference. Eugene tells him not to worry, he's sure they'll be over soon. Meanwhile, Nain stands in front of a huge, complex system with Inu, saying that it looks like this is it. Some time ago, inside the ship, when Nain used his knife to strip his enemy of his weapon and kill him. He goes further and tries to feel where this stone is hidden. He closes his eyes and feels the flow of energy. He feels the lines going up to the first deck, so that's it. He hears a rumble from the sides. He understands that this is Iannone's doing. He doesn't understand why he's throwing people against the walls when he can just throw them off the deck into the sea. He would have heard the sound from outside the ship anyway, though. In the fight he saw, the inspector was gathering mana into some kind of spinner in the stomach area, and then he released it directly into the enemy's body, and everything inside him also began to spin, and then he died. To put it simply, the sound just now was not from him slamming someone into the wall, but from a man falling to pieces onto the deck. Nain thinks it's creepy. What strange people live in their world? He recalls that before they separated, Iannone turned to the young man and asked what kind of technique it was. He moved as if he knew in advance what the enemy would do. Nain asks him what kind of technique he had. He hit enemies with some kind of spinner made of mana. He replies that it was spinning, and that's all. Nain openly replies that it is fencing. Iannone adjusts his glasses and says that it is a martial art. Nain walks on, smiling as he thinks that they seem to be getting along. He approaches the first deck of the ship. He kicks the door and sees a huge system. Inu meows. Nain agrees with her. Nain says it's a magical stone that creates interference. He jumps down, kills the enemies, and thinks it's not, because it's too big to be called a stone, it's more of a boulder. He jumps and destroys the system with one swing. Eugene smiles, and fear appears in Bartholomew's eyes. A huge ball appears in the sky above. They all turn around, realizing what awaits them. The next second, all the enemies are killed by an attack from above. Bartholomew manages to repel the attack and remains alive. He understands that these are the same 12mm bolts that they had, and in such a huge number at the same time and without any misses. Here Linda threateningly says that there is no point in running because they are homing. From afar, Linda sees explosions happening in the ship. A sacred bird flies to her, lands on her shoulder, winks, and says that they are done. She calls Eugene and Daria to the reception, asking if they can hear her. Eugene says it was a great shot, Daria compliments her, and Linda says the interference is gone, so she was able to aim without any problem. Eugene smiles and says that it looks like he did it. Daria proudly says that she expected nothing less from Nain. Linda breathes a sigh of relief, looks away and says that it's a good thing she didn't have to use that huge, scary weapon next to her. Linda says she would have run out of mana again if she had used it. Eugene says it seems like when she used it on the dragon, she then slept for 2 weeks straight. Linda replies that she is of course glad that Daria sat by her bed in tears that time, but she certainly won't use that thing unless they are fighting a dragon. Daria says, offended, that she was actually worried about her. Eugene says that perhaps it's time to return their weapons. Linda tells him that she's already in the process. Then their weapons fly to them. Eugene takes them and sees the water flowing down, and says that, as he thought, he was thrown into the sea. Linda says it's a good thing they have her and her return spell. Eugene agrees and says they don't need the barrier anymore. A bullet hits him and bounces off his body. Eugene grins and says that his staff will automatically protect them. Something like that. He looks at Bartholomew and says that he survived. After all, he is standing with a weapon covered in blood. Eugene says that, unfortunately, they have lost the Lord, but at least let Bartholomew surrender in peace. He asks, did he not understand their difference in strength? He stands up and calls them all monsters. He takes out the watch with the magic circles and then throws it up. It catches fire. Daria asks the inspector what it is. Eugene thinks to himself that it is a magic stone. After all, he really did have a trump card. Bartholomew shouts that another monster is needed against monsters. Bartholomew holds the watch up to the top, so it starts to glow. The heroes become wary. Linda holds her weapon at the ready. In his madness, Bartholomew screams that only a monster can defeat monsters. He doesn't have time to do anything, when suddenly he loses his arm. The arm up to the elbow, where he held the trump card, is simply cut off. Bartholomew coughs up blood. Linda holds her weapon tightly. The severed arm falls. Bartholomew falls to his knees and begins to scream in pain. Eugene stands majestically before them. Bartholomew raises his head and shows his sly smile. Then the talisman starts to glow. Anyway, Eugene is calmly surprised. He wonders with boredom if this is summoning magic. Waves roll in behind the ship. The ship begins to skid. The people in it are covered in waves. Bartholomew stands without one arm. A huge tentacle emerges from the sea and strikes towards Eugene, breaking the floor of the ship. A huge monster appears in front of them. An eye several times bigger than them is visible. A huge lobster monster stands in front of them and breaks everything. The inspector looks on in disappointment along with Eugene, and Linda sees from afar and says wearily, "Is this monster really the last trump card that this weirdo was talking about?" They stand on the ship quite calmly. Eugene asks if this monster is really his last hope. Bartholomew is frightened by his words. Bartholomew then gathers himself and shouts to everyone not to panic and to get ready for the ship, but something sparkles from above and he freezes in place. Daria flies from above with her weapon straight at this monster. Bartholomew looks at her in fear. Daria swings her weapon, hitting the monster, cutting it in half. Before the monster can do anything, the monster, destroyed by Daria, simply and powerlessly falls back into the sea, causing Bartholomew to scream and express a lot of emotions. The monster's tentacles slowly sink to the bottom. Daria looks at the monster, then turns to the people and asks if she probably killed him in vain. Eugene tells her with a smile that it is not so, and that everything is fine. Linda adds that it was like the rides at an amusement park in the capital. Daria looks around and asks with interest if Nain hasn't returned yet. Eugene seriously asks Bartholomew what's next, since his card is beaten. Bartholomew does not calm down, grins again, and tells Eugene that he is wrong. A dark barrier appears around the ship again. People accept it calmly. Bartholomew shouts that he will not lose. His barrier covers not only his ship and several neighboring ones, but also part of the city entirely. Bartholomew shouts that he will blow up the entire harbor by activating magic. He laughs maliciously and shouts that all means are good, and that he will die here. Only now, speaking about the Lord, he says and believes that he will definitely return again. In the name of this, he will sacrifice himself and drag them with him to the next world. Eugene calmly raises his hand and says that it's true. The explosion is like a chain reaction. He asks if they've stopped it yet. He thinks they're the best, as always. Bartholomew doesn't understand and wonders if this is telepathy. He asks what he just said. Then he hears cracks behind him. He turns back and sees that his barrier is simply breaking into pieces. He's already screaming in horror and denying everything that's happening. Eugene says that, as expected of a captain, he's reacting just like his master. Eugene tells him seriously that he understands how he feels. Bartholomew asks in despair how this happened. He lists everything. The camouflage magic, the communications breakdown, that explosion. None of it should have been so easy to destroy. Eugene smiles and then says the magic phrase that this is fencing. In an instant, Nina holds onto the edges of the ship and then jumps inside with Inu. Eugene congratulates Nain on his return, and Daria immediately rushes to hug Nain, surprising him. She happily says how good it is that he is okay. It's not that she is very worried about him, but she really wants to be near him. She tells him with a smile that he helped fix the communication problem. She thanks him. Nain wants to say something, but the hugs get in the way. Linda asks if they can stop fooling around in the middle of enemy territory. Eugene says that Nain seems to be suffering, but at least the mood is uplifted after the fight. Daria realizes and abruptly moves away from Nain, pushing him. She awkwardly apologizes to him, and he also blushes and says that it is nothing special. The inspector laughs and says that the youth are good. Daria says that she usually does not do that and is indignant. Iannone asks her not to worry and says that he saw nothing. It is nice to enjoy the happiness of being reunited with a lover. Daria thinks to herself that they are not lovers, but she does not want to deny his words. The inspector points to Bartholomew and suggests leaving him here. He hits him in the stomach and then ties him up. Iannone throws him over his shoulder and says that as a criminal he deserves punishment. He says that one needs to come back or the results won't be seen. Eugene says that's especially true if you don't blow it up. Nain listens and says it's terrible. Everyone smiles at each other. Iannone says that for him, the Scarlet Falcons are much more terrible, and so the Battle of Tanmiwa is over.